Deep beneath the earth, far from light or wind, there lies a river that breathes. They call it the Black Current, a stream said to carry the memories of a forgotten world and the silence of everything it drowned. When Dr. Evelyn Hart leads her team into the depths, they believe they're chasing science, but what they find is something older, something waiting. What if the water remembers? Let's descend and listen to what sleeps below.
The rain tapped softly against the glass walls of the conference room, a gentle percussion underscoring the low murmur of voices. Evelyn Hart stood at the head of a long polished table, her sharp eyes reflecting the storm outside. She cleared her throat and the room fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "the Black Current is no mere myth. This river, which vanishes beneath the earth only to resurface thousands of miles away, holds secrets that could redefine our understanding of geology, hydrology, and ancient civilizations." Her voice was steady but charged with passion, a quality that had long galvanized her academic career. The assembled group, a mosaic of expertise and ambition, listened intently. Among them was Jonas Vega, the rugged cave diver whose weathered features bore the stories of lost comrades and personal demons. His eyes, sharp under a furrowed brow, flicked toward the projection of the subterranean river system that hovered behind Dr. Hart. Beside Jonas, Annika Rao adjusted her glasses, her slender fingers clutching a worn notebook filled with sketches and translations. Her youthful appearance belied a fierce dedication to uncovering the cultural histories entombed beneath layers of rock and time. The promise of discovering remnants of lost civilizations along the Black Current's banks was what had drawn her here. Marco Silva, seated near the back, exhaled slowly. His neatly pressed suit, an ever-present tablet spoke of a life steeped in logistics and numbers. Yet beneath his pragmatic exterior was a genuine curiosity and a hope that this expedition might yield returns beyond the ledger. Lena Torres, the energetic journalist with a camera slung over her shoulder, scanned the room with bright eyes, eager to capture every moment of this unfolding adventure. The familiar scent of rain mingled with the sterile air of the conference room as she prepared to tell the story that would grip the world's imagination. Evelyn's gaze swept the room again. "Each of you has a role to play. Jonas, your expertise in cave diving and survival will be critical navigating the treacherous passages. Annika, your knowledge of ancient cultures and languages will guide us in interpreting the ruins we may find. Marco, your support ensures we have the resources to face whatever lies ahead. Lena, your documentation will bring the expedition's story to life." The room hummed with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Evelyn's voice softened as she added, "This journey will test us all not only against nature's perils, but against our own limits. The Black Current does not surrender its secrets lightly." Jonas shifted in his seat, the weight of past failures pressing on him. "I'm ready," he said quietly, his voice rough but resolute. "Whatever comes, I won't let the team down." Annika nodded, her eyes shining with a mixture of humility and determination. "We owe it to those who came before us to uncover the truth respectfully." Outside, the rain intensified, drumming a rhythm that seemed to echo the river's unyielding flow beneath the earth. The team was assembled, the stage set for a journey that would lead them into darkness and wonder alike. Later, in the dim light of a dive shop, Jonas ran his fingers over the worn leather of his diving gear. The memories of a failed mission, of comrades lost in cold, unyielding water, flickered across his mind. But the Black Current was different, ancient, mysterious, alive with possibility. Redemption was a fragile hope, but it was enough to push him forward. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of a university library, Annika's slender fingers traced the faded symbols in her ancient texts. The stories they hinted at of civilizations, entwined with the river's course, stirred her imagination and her sense of duty. This was more than an academic pursuit. It was a chance to honor a legacy of explorers who had vanished before them. In a private study, Marco Silva reviewed the expedition's budget one last time. The numbers were tight, the risks enormous. Yet the promise of discovery outweighed the caution. This was the kind of venture that defined a lifetime. As preparations continued, Captain Alias Grant checked his riverboat, his practiced hands inspecting every rope and plank. The journey to the river's entrance would be fraught with hazards, but his experience navigating treacherous waters would be a steady anchor. Felix Harrow packed his medical supplies meticulously, aware that their survival depended not only on courage, but on health and resilience. Nina Patel calibrated the technical equipment, her mind already racing through possible malfunctions and emergency fixes. The day before departure, the team gathered for a final briefing. Evelyn addressed them, her tone both commanding and warm. Remember, the river's flow is relentless. So must be our resolve, trust in each other, and in the science that guides us. The night descended, thick with the promise of the unknown. Within each member of the team stirred a restless current of hope, fear, ambition, and the unquenchable thirst for discovery. The black current awaited, its dark waters twisting unseen beneath the earth, ready to test the limits of human courage and curiosity. The call had been heard. The journey was about to begin. The morning mist hung heavy over the dense jungle as the expedition team approached the legendary mouth of the black current. Evelyn Hart led the way, her sharp eyes scanning the distorted shadows cast by the towering trees and jagged rock formations. Their journey thus far had been filled with scholarly debates, logistical preparations, and the subtle buzz of anticipation. But now, standing at the precipice of the unknown, that anticipation ripened into a tangible tension, like the charged air before a storm. The cave's entrance yawned wide before them, a cavernous maw carved by millennia of rushing water. The black current disappeared into its depths, a dark ribbon of swirling water that seemed to pulse with an almost sentient energy. Mist rose from the river's surface, coiling upward in delicate tendrils before dissipating into the humid air. The scent of damp earth, mingled with the faint tang of minerals, filled their nostrils. Jonas Vega was first to break the silence. "Looks like the stories aren't exaggerating," he muttered, his voice rough but low. His weathered face was illuminated by the soft glow of his headlamp as he adjusted his gear, the rugged lines of his face set in focused determination. Evelyn nodded, her practical attire blending with the surrounding shadows. "This is it. The black current, the river that disappears beneath the earth and resurfaces oceans away." Anika Rao stood close by, her slender frame almost swallowed by her modest clothing. Her glasses caught the faint light as she knelt beside the rocky bank, tracing a finger over faint symbols etched into the stone. "There's evidence of human presence here," she whispered. "Ancient markings. This river has been part of stories, rituals, perhaps even the lifeblood of forgotten civilizations." Marcos Silva, ever the pragmatic financier, checked his tablet, his brow furrowed. "Let's hope those civilizations didn't vanish because of this river's dangers. We need to keep our wits about us." Lena Torres raised her camera, capturing the ethereal dance of mist and shadow. "This will be the story of a lifetime," she murmured, eyes bright with excitement. Captain Elias Grant secured the inflatable raft, his seasoned hands moving with practiced ease. "Winds and currents up here can be tricky," he warned. "But down there, it's a different beast altogether." The team prepared to embark, adjusting helmets, ropes, and oxygen tanks. Nina Patel double-checked the equipment, her fingers deftly inspecting every connection. Juta Felix Harrow offered quiet reassurance, handing out water and medical supplies. As they pushed the raft into the water, the current immediately tugged at it, strong and unyielding. Jonas took the lead, paddling with steady strokes, his military training evident in every movement. The roar of the river echoed against the cavern walls, a cacophony of rushing water and distant drips. The light from their lamps flickered off slick stone surfaces, revealing jagged stalactites hanging precariously overhead. The air was cooler here, damp and thick with the scent of wet rock and algae. Shadows danced unsettlingly, giving the cavern an almost alive quality. "Watch the currents," Evelyn cautioned. "They shift unpredictably. Stay alert." The raft jolted as a sudden swirl caught them, tossing their balance. Jonas gritted his teeth, steering towards calmer waters, but the river resisted. Each bend revealed new challenges, narrow passages where the walls pressed close, underwater rocks that threatened to puncture their craft, and sudden drops where the water plunged into darkness. Tensions began to surface. Jonas's impulsive maneuvers clashed with Evelyn's careful commands. Annika's quiet observations sometimes went unheard amid the growing stress. Marco fretted over the risks, questioning the pace, while Lena tried to capture moments of beauty amidst the danger. At one point, Evelyn paused, raising a hand. "We need to anchor here," she said, eyeing a narrow ledge beside the riverbank. The team pulled the raft to a stop, the roar of the water settling into a persistent hum. Annika stepped onto the ledge, her fingers tracing symbols on the wet rock. "These markings tell of the river's peril," she said softly. "Warnings, perhaps, or prayers." Jonas watched her, a flicker of respect crossing his rugged features. "Guess this river's been testing explorers long before us." Suddenly, a sharp rumble echoed through the cavern. Dust and small stones rained from the ceiling, forcing the team to scramble back to the raft. Marco barked orders to secure the equipment. Evelyn's calm voice cut through the chaos.
"Stay focused!"
We were not turning back yet. The black currents surged onward, relentless and inscrutable. As they plunged deeper into the cavern's embrace, each explorer grappled with the growing realization that this journey would demand every ounce of courage, skill, and trust they possessed. The river was no mere body of water. It was a living force, dangerous, enigmatic, and utterly mesmerizing. Their passage through the underground world had only just begun, and already the weight of the black current's secrets pressed heavily upon them. As the raft bobbed and twisted through the dark waters, the team's eyes caught glimpses of strange formations, crystalline walls shimmering faintly in their lamp's glow. Distant echoes of dripping water that sounded like whispered warnings. The river's flow seemed to pulse like a heartbeat beneath the earth, carrying them deeper into realms untouched by time. Evelyn stood at the raft's bow, journal in hand, jotting notes with meticulous care, pausing frequently to observe subtle shifts in the water's behavior. Her mind raced with hypotheses, scientific questions, and the weight of responsibility for her team. Jonas remained vigilant, scanning the shadows ahead and behind, muscles tense. His impulsiveness had to be checked, but his instincts were vital in this unforgiving environment. Annika's eyes scanned every surface, looking for clues left by those who had come before. Her whispers of translation added layers of meaning to the journey, reminding the group that they were not the first to seek answers here. Beneath them, the black current twisted and turned, its dark waters flowing with an ancient mystery as old as the earth itself. The team was caught between exhilaration and dread, the thrill of discovery tempered by the stark realization of nature's indifference. As the raft rounded another bend, a sudden shift in the current caused it to lurch violently. Jonas shouted a warning just as a cascade of water surged down from above, sending droplets sparkling in the air like fleeting stars. The team braced themselves, hearts pounding. When the torrent subsided, silence returned heavy, profound. The black current whispered on, its secrets still locked away, inviting and threatening in equal measure. Evelyn's voice broke the quiet. "This is only the beginning." And with that, they plunged deeper into the unknown, the river's flow carrying them onward into peril, into wonder, into the heart of the black current itself. The cavern breathed a cold, damp breath as the explorers pressed onward. The black current whispering its ancient secrets in the dark waters that curled and twisted beneath the jagged rock. Evelyn Hart's sharp eyes scanned the expanse ahead, the faint shimmer of bioluminescent fungi casting ghostly light on the slick walls. Each step echoed softly, a rhythmic drumbeat against the cavern's vastness, a pulse that seemed to synchronize with the river's relentless flow. Jonas Vega led the way, his athletic frame moving with practiced ease through the slippery terrain. Yet beneath his confident stride lurked a restlessness, a simmering impatience that had been growing since the expedition began. His gaze darted ahead, calculating the next move, his mind racing faster than the cautious pace favored by Evelyn. Behind them, Annika Rao moved slowly, her fingers tracing the contours of the cavern walls. Her glasses caught the dim light. Reflecting the cryptic symbols, she had started to notice etched deep into the stone curves and lines that whispered of a forgotten civilization. Her breath caught as she paused, adjusting her stance to get a better look. "Evelyn," Annika called softly, voice tinged with excitement and uncertainty. "You need to see this." Evelyn approached, her expression sharpening. She crouched beside Annika, shining her headlamp on the intricate markings. The symbols were unlike anything she'd expected, an ancient language that hinted at a society that had thrived alongside the subterranean river, their culture inextricably bound to the black current itself. "These aren't just decorations," Annika whispered, tracing a delicate spiral that seemed to mimic the river's meandering path. "They tell a story, maybe even a warning." Jonas frowned from a short distance, arms crossed. "We don't have time to decode murals. We need to keep moving. The currents are changing, and waiting here puts us at risk." Evelyn met his gaze steadily. "We move too fast, Jonas. Rushing could cost us everything. We need to understand what we're dealing with." His jaw tightened, a flicker of defiance in his eyes. "Sometimes, understanding comes from action, not hesitation." The tension crackled like static electricity, spreading quickly through the group. Marco Silva, standing near the cavern entrance with his ever-present tablet, watched with a skeptical eye. The practical concerns of safety and funding weighed heavily on his mind, and he made no effort to hide his unease. "Leadership means making tough calls," Evelyn said, voice calm but firm, "and reckless decisions endanger us all." Jonas's reply was sharp, bordering on insubordinate. "Maybe leadership means knowing when to take risks." Annika stepped between them, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "We can't afford to be divided. The river's secrets are at stake as much as our lives." Lena Torres, camera slung over her shoulder, captured the moment, the flicker of conflict, the weight of responsibility, the fragile threads holding the team together. Her lens caught Evelyn's steady gaze, Jonas's clenched fists, and Annika's pleading eyes. The photograph would later tell a story of a team at a crossroads. As the argument subsided, the explorers turned their attention back to the river's murmur. Annika returned to the symbols, her fingers tracing the spirals and glyphs with reverence. "These markings suggest the river was more than a waterway," she said. "It was a lifeline, a force that shaped culture, belief, and survival." Evelyn nodded, her mind racing to connect this new information with her geological theories. The black current was not just a physical phenomenon, it was a narrative thread woven through time, carrying with it the legacy of those who had walked these tunnels long before. Jonas, still tense, finally spoke, voice quieter now. "If that's true, then we're not just explorers. We're part of something much bigger." The cavern seemed to close around them, the river's dark waters swirling with unseen power. The team felt the weight of history pressing in, the flow of the black current carrying them deeper into mystery and danger. As they prepared to move on, a subtle shift in the water caught Jonas's eye, a rapid current pulling toward a narrow, shadowed passage. His instincts screamed to follow, to push forward despite the risks. Evelyn hesitated, sensing the precarious balance between caution and courage. "We proceed together," she declared, voice steady. "No more solo decisions." Jonas's jaw clenched, but he nodded, the first sign of trust in days. Annika glanced back at the symbols once more, a silent promise to honor the story etched in stone. The black current flowed on, relentless and inscrutable, carrying the explorers toward their next trial. Within its depths lay not only peril but revelation, a journey shaped as much by the currents of human conflict as by the river itself. The shadows lengthened, and the river whispered its ancient song. The question hung in the damp air. Could they overcome their differences and survive the black current's deadly embrace? Or would their own fractures doom the expedition before the mysteries could be unveiled? Their journey was just beginning, and the currents of conflict promised only more twists to come. The cavern yawned before them like a forgotten temple, walls alive with the faint glow of bioluminescent fungi that clung to every crevice and crack. Dre. Evelyn Hart adjusted her headlamp, the beam slicing through the humid darkness to reveal crumbling structures that rose from the cavern floor like the skeleton of a lost world. The team moved forward in hushed reverence, breaths shallow as the weight of history pressed in around them. "Look at this," Anika Rao whispered, crouching beside a fractured stone tablet half buried in sediment. Her slender fingers brushed away centuries of dust, revealing delicate carvings of serpentine figures entwined with flowing water motifs. These symbols they speak of a people who revered the river as both life and death. Jonas Vega, standing a few feet away, scanned the shadows nervously. His rugged face was etched with the strain of months underground, but his eyes flickered with that familiar spark of adventure. "Feels like the river's watching us," he muttered, half joking, but the tension in the air was palpable. Lena Torres raised her camera, the shutter clicks punctuating the silence as she captured every detail, the faded murals depicting ceremonial rites, the worn steps leading to what seemed an altar, the intricate mosaic shimmering faintly in the phosphorescent light. "This is gold," she murmured, "a story the world has never seen." Evelyn stepped forward, her analytical mind racing. These ruins confirm that the Black Current isn't just a natural marvel, it was a cradle of civilization. But what happened here? Why did they disappear? Annika's eyes shone with a mixture of excitement and caution. There are warnings etched alongside the image's cautions against disturbing the flow, the balance of the river, and the people. It suggests a deep understanding of the river's power, perhaps even rituals to appease it. As the team spread out to document the site, a low rumble echoed through the cavern. Dust drifted down in slow, ominous clouds. Jonas immediately signaled for caution. "Rockfall," he warned. "The river's loosened the ceiling. We need to move back." Heart pounding, Evelyn ordered a retreat. The team scrambled through the labyrinth of stone and water, the cavern trembling as more debris fell. Once they reached a safer chamber, the tension broke into whispered breaths and pounding hearts. Around the flickering campfire that evening, the mood shifted from exhilaration to unease. The discoveries had ignited fierce debate. Anika argued passionately for preservation. "We can't risk damaging these priceless sites. They belong to history, to the river itself." Marco Silva, the expedition financier, voiced a harsher pragmatism. "We need results to justify the funding. Artifacts, samples, something tangible." Jonas, ever the pragmatist in the face of danger, sided with caution but understood the pressure. "We were walking a fine line here. One wrong move, and this whole place could collapse." Evelyn, caught between scientific integrity and the team's diverging priorities, felt the weight of leadership heavier than ever. "We document thoroughly, but no reckless excavation. This site is fragile, and so are we." The night deepened, the river's distant murmur a constant reminder of the peril surrounding them. As sleep claimed the camp, dreams tangled with the ancient echoes of a civilization lost to the Black Current's relentless flow, an eternal testament to the peril and beauty that defined their quest. The next day brought renewed determination. Anika led the team in cataloging inscriptions, her voice steady as she translated the ancient tongue. They spoke of a ritual passage, the flow of souls, where the river was both gate and guardian. Jonas tested the surrounding rocks, marking unstable areas. "We need to map these hazards carefully. The river's not just a pathway, it's a trap." Evelyn's mind raced with hypotheses. If the river shaped this culture, then understanding its course could unlock secrets of both nature and history. But we must tread lightly. The expedition pressed on, each step a negotiation between discovery and preservation, awe and dread. The black current's dark waters whispered beneath them, a timeless current carrying the weight of a lost world and their own fragile futures. As they prepared to descend further, the cavern's silence was broken by a sudden, sharp cracking, a reminder that this ancient sanctuary was as alive and unpredictable as the river itself. The explorers exchanged wary glances, understanding that their journey was far from over and the river's secrets were guarded by more than just stone and shadow. With hearts steeled by wonder and caution, they ventured onward, deeper into the echoes of the past, where every ripple in the black current promised revelation and risk in equal measure. The cavern's entrance yawned before them, a dark maw carved by millennia of relentless water flow. Jonas Vega crouched near the edge, methodically checking his diving gear under the faint glow of a flickering lantern. The air was cool and damp, carrying the faint scent of wet stone and moss. Around him, the rest of the team stood tensely, their breaths shallow and eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "This is it," Jonas muttered, adjusting the straps of his oxygen tank. His voice was steady but carried an edge of adrenaline that betrayed his eagerness. The black current waits beneath. Drutter Evelyn Hart watched him carefully. She admired his confidence earned through years of grueling experience as a cave diva, but sensed the simmering recklessness beneath. Jonas's impulsiveness had already caused friction within the group, and she feared what the unforgiving underwater passages might demand. Annika Rao hovered nearby, clutching her waterproof notebook, her glasses fogged in the humid cave air. "Be careful," she whispered, as if the very walls might absorb her words and carry them downstream. Jonas flashed a quick grin, the kind that had once reassured comrades during perilous military missions. "I always am." Nina Patel double-checked the lights and communication devices, her fingers nimble despite the cold. "Equipment's good to go. Just say the word." With a nod from Evelyn, Jonas slipped into the water. The cold hit him instantly, a biting contrast to the mudgy cave air. The current tugged at his wetsuit, whispering threats of the unknown ahead. He kicked slowly, letting the flow guide him deeper into the submerged labyrinth. The team followed, each member tethered by safety lines and clinging to the slim hope that Jonas's instincts would keep them alive. The water was opaque black, swallowing their headlamp beams into eerie voids. Jagged rocks jutted out like ancient teeth, and the tunnel narrowed perilously in places, forcing the explorers into single file. Jonas led with practiced ease, navigating sharp bends and sudden drops that made the river seem alive, breathing, shifting, and testing their resolve. The motif of flow was no abstraction here. It was a tangible force, an adversary and guide. Suddenly, the current accelerated. Jonas signaled a halt, but the river's power was unforgiving. A violent swirl caught him, pulling him downstream before he could react. His body twisted in the water, limbs flailing as he fought the overwhelming force.
"Jonas!"
Evelyn's voice cracked through the comms, panic threading her tone. The team scrambled to reach him, hearts pounding as the dark water swallowed his figure. Moments stretched into an eternity before he burst to the surface of a small air pocket, gasping, eyes wild but alive. "I'm okay," he rasped, though his shaken breath betrayed the close call. Back on solid ground, the group gathered in a tight circle, the gravity of the near disaster settling over them like the heavy cave air. Evelyn stepped forward, her gaze locking with Jonas's. "Your skills are crucial, Jonas, but we can't afford risks like that. One mistake could cost us everything." He nodded, the usual bravado replaced by a rare humility. "I'll be more careful." Annika exhaled slowly, her earlier hesitations giving way to a newfound respect for the precariousness of their journey. The black current flowed relentlessly nearby, its dark waters a reminder that their path was as much about survival as discovery. Each ripple carried the promise of revelation and the threat of oblivion. As they prepared to push deeper, the team understood that beneath the surface lay not just the river's secret, but the fragile balance between courage and caution that would define their fate. And so, with hearts pounding and senses sharpened, They plunged once more into the abyss, the river's endless flow carrying them toward the unknown. The rumble came without warning, a deep, rolling thunder that echoed through the cavern like the growl of some ancient beast disturbed from slumber. Drar. Evelyn Hart was leading the group through a narrow passage, her sharp eyes scanning every shadow, every crack in the limestone walls. The black current was no longer a distant mystery, it was a living, breathing threat. As the first shards of stone began to fall, the explorers barely had time to react before a cascade of rocks tumbled down behind them, sealing off the path they had just traversed. Panic flared instantly. Shouts and gasps bounced off the cavern walls as the dust settled into a heavy, choking haze. Jonas Vega was the first to regain his composure, his rugged frame tense as he peered at the jagged blockade. "We're trapped," he said bluntly, his voice rough but steady. The rest of the team scrambled to assess their situation. Drata Annika Rao clutched her notebook tightly, her face pale, but determined. "Everyone, stay calm," Evelyn commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon. "We need to organize and conserve our resources. Felix, check for injuries. Nina, assess our equipment. Marco, coordinate with Captain Grant, and Lena, see if they can establish a communication link outside." The group quickly settled into roles, their fear tempered by necessity. Felix moved efficiently among the team, tending to minor scrapes and calming the more distressed members. Nina inspected their gear, her brow furrowed as she tested batteries and radio signals. Outside the sealed cavern, the remaining members of the expedition raced to mount a rescue. Captain Elias Grant barked orders, his experience on treacherous waters translating into a steady hand under pressure. Lena Torres adjusted her camera briefly, capturing the stark reality of their predicament before focusing on relaying information. Inside the cramped space, tension simmered beneath the surface. Jonas paced restlessly, his impulsive nature chafing against Evelyn's methodical approach. "We can't just wait here," he muttered, glancing at the unstable debris. "I'm going to find another way out." Evelyn shook her head firmly. "No. We don't know what's beyond that rubble. We risk further cave-ins or losing each other in the dark. We stay put and wait for help." The clash of wills rippled through the group, a fracture not just in the rock but in their fragile unity. Yet beneath the conflict, a grudging respect began to form. Jonas grudgingly accepted the plan, while Evelyn allowed moments of flexibility, understanding the value of his physical prowess. As hours stretched on, the explorers took turns sharing stories, their voices weaving a fragile web of connection against the oppressive silence. Annika's insights into the ancient symbols, discovered earlier, offered distraction and hope, reminding them that they were part of a continuum of explorers who had faced the unknown before. Outside, Marco Silva negotiated with local authorities and arranged for specialized rescue teams to mobilize. Lena's reports brought the world's attention to their plight, her words capturing the raw human drama unfolding beneath the earth. Night fell, and the cavern grew colder. Evelyn huddled with the team, her leadership evolving from academic to guardian. She pushed aside her doubts and fears, focusing on the survival of her people. Every decision was weighed with precision, every moment a test of endurance. When a faint tapping was heard from beyond the rubble, a spark of hope ignited. Rescue efforts were underway, but the final escape remained uncertain. The black current had challenged them, fractured their group, but also revealed the strength hidden beneath their fears. The air inside the cavern was thick with dust and the faint scent of damp stone as the team pushed through the narrow opening, their movements cautious yet propelled by a shared surge of adrenaline. The cave-in had been sudden, a violent collapse that trapped half their group in a stifling pocket of rock and debris. But now, freed from the crushing weight of Earth, the survivors found themselves facing a discovery far greater than they had anticipated. Evelyn Hart's steady voice broke the fragile silence. "Stay close. The walls look at these markings." Jonas Vega, brushing dust from his rugged jacket, squinted into the darkness and then stepped forward, his boots echoing softly on the stone floor. This isn't just a tunnel, it's a chamber. Annika Rao adjusted her glasses, her eyes scanning the intricate carvings that adorned the walls. The faded murals told stories in swirling patterns and cryptic symbols, hinting at a civilization that had thrived in this subterranean world long before any modern record. These inscriptions, Annika whispered, her fingers tracing a delicate script, they speak of the river's path, but also of a people who revered it and feared it. Marco Silva, standing near the entrance with his ever-present tablet, frowned. How do we know these artifacts won't be damaged if we stay here? We need to document and remove them for study. Lena Torres raised her camera, capturing the solemn expressions on their faces. We have to tell the world about this, she said softly. But at what cost? Evelyn stepped between them, her sharp eyes meeting Marco's. Marco, I understand the urgency, but these relics are part of a sacred history. We must tread carefully. The chamber was alive with stories carved into stone, depictions of rituals, daily life, and ominous warnings. Annika's voice grew steady as she began to translate the inscriptions aloud. When the waters rise and the earth trembles below, the guardians of the current shall fall. The river will claim all, shifting the fate of those who dwell within its embrace. A hush fell over the group as the weight of those words sank in. Jonas's jaw tightened. That sounds like a warning, maybe a record of a catastrophe. Annika nodded slowly. The river's course has always been unpredictable, but this suggests the civilization here was destroyed by its own waterway, by the very force we seek to understand. Evelyn's gaze hardened with resolve. This is why our work matters, to uncover the truth, to learn from the past, but also to respect it. As the team debated their next steps, the chamber seemed to close in around them, an ancient sentinel guarding secrets that had survived millennia. The black current was more than a river. It was a living force, intertwined with human history and the eternal flow of time. Outside, the distant sound of water echoed faintly, a reminder that their journey was far from over. The secrets in stone had revealed much, but the river's ultimate path remained shrouded in mystery. And with that, the explorers felt the weight of their discovery settle deep within their souls, a call to carry forward with caution, courage, and respect for the unknown. The chamber's shadows danced as their torches flickered, and somewhere beyond the darkness, the black current flowed onward, relentless and eternal. But what awaited them next was a challenge none could yet foresee. The air inside the cavern was thick with moisture and tension. Flickering headlamps cast long, wavering shadows on the walls as the team paused at a fork in the tunnel, where the black current split into two restless streams. The water roared beneath their feet, a dark, swirling force that seemed almost alive, an unpredictable entity that defied human control. Jonas Vega's eyes gleamed with restless energy. His rugged features tightened with resolve, his instinct urging him forward. That way, he said sharply, pointing toward the narrower, less stable branch of the cavern. It's a shortcut, and it might bring us closer to the river's heart. Dra. Evelyn Hart stepped forward, her sharp eyes scanning the rock formations. That path is unstable, she warned, voice steady but strained. We don't know what's holding it up. We need to assess the risks before proceeding. Jonas shook his head, impatience flickering across his weathered face. We can't afford delays. Every moment counts, the current's shifting, and if we wait too long, we might lose our chance. Annika Rao adjusted her glasses nervously, glancing at the ancient symbols etched faintly into the cavern walls. Rushing could mean disturbing something precious and dangerous, she murmured. We need to be careful. Marco Silva, standing nearby with his tablet clutched tightly, frowned. Safety must come first. We can't gamble with lives for the sake of speed. Lena Torres lifted her camera, capturing the charged atmosphere, the clash of urgency and caution, the human frailty against nature's relentless flow. The tension was palpable, a current all its own. Against the murmurs of doubt, Jonas took a decisive step toward the narrow passage. "I'm going." Before anyone could stop him, he disappeared into the gloom. The team exchanged worried glances. Evelyn's mind raced. She couldn't afford to lose control now. She followed swiftly, her boots echoing softly against wet stone. The passage was tight and treacherous. Water splashed around their ankles, the walls slick with algae and mineral deposits. Every step seemed to reverberate through the cavern, a fragile heartbeat in the vast underground. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the tunnel. Loose rocks trembled overhead. Jonas froze, eyes wide, as a cascade of debris thundered down. The team shouted warnings, scrambling away just as stones crashed onto the ground where they had stood moments before. Dust choked the air, the darkness deepened, and panic surged. Evelyn's voice cut through the chaos. "Stay calm! Move back now!" They retreated as quickly as safety allowed, hearts pounding, lungs burning. The narrow passage sealed behind them with a final, ominous clatter. Back in the wider cavern, the team gathered, shaken but intact. Jonas's jaw was clenched, frustration and guilt warring in his eyes. Evelyn stepped forward, her tone firm but measured. "This is why we have to work together, with caution. The black current isn't just a river, it's a force. It tests us and it punishes recklessness." Jonas looked away, the weight of responsibility settling heavily upon him. Anika moved beside Evelyn, her voice soft but resolute. "The river demands respect. We must listen to its flow, to each other." Marco nodded, relief mingled with concern. "We'll need stricter protocols. No more solo decisions." Lena lowered her camera, capturing the solemn faces around her. "This will be a turning point. The story isn't just about discovery, it's about survival and trust." As the dust settled, the team's fragile unity began to coalesce anew. The peril had exposed their vulnerabilities, but also the strength that could emerge from shared purpose. Later, the explorers found a quiet sanctuary beside a faintly glowing bioluminescent pool. The ethereal light danced on their wary faces, reflecting a fragile hope amid the darkness. Anika knelt, tracing delicate symbols on a nearby stone, whispering the words of a forgotten language. The river's secrets beckoned still, a promise and a warning intertwined. Evelyn watched her team, feeling the slow shift from tension to resolve. The black current flowed relentlessly onward, and so would they together, cautious but undaunted. Yet beneath the surface, currents shifted once more, carrying mysteries deeper into the abyss. The journey was far from over. The black waters of the subterranean river whispered secrets that only the darkness could keep, somewhere deep beneath the earth. The explorers found themselves not only navigating the treacherous twists and turns of the black current, but also the uncharted currents of their own hearts and histories. The cavern, vast and silent except for the slow drip of water echoing off stone, seemed to close in on them, amplifying every breath and every thought. Jonas Vega stood at the edge of the river bank, his gaze fixed on the inky surface of the water. The flickering light from the headlamps painted ghostly reflections that danced like phantoms on the swirling currents. His rugged features, usually so full of blunt confidence and dry humor, were now taut and solemn. He was alone in his thoughts, yet painfully aware that the others were close by, their muffled voices and shuffling feet a quiet reminder of their presence. He breathed deeply, the stale cave air filling his lungs, and the memories came unbidden. The mission had been a disaster, a failed dive in hostile waters. Friends lost and lives broken. The faces of comrades he couldn't save haunted him like shadows beneath the surface of the river. Guilt was a relentless tide, pulling him under with every step he took deeper into the black current's domain. Yet here in this darkness, the past was inescapable, as real as the stone beneath his feet. "Jonas," a soft voice broke the silence. It was Anika Rao, her slender form stepping carefully towards him. Her glasses caught the glow from the lamps, reflecting tiny sparks of light. "You were not alone in carrying heavy memories." Jonas turned, offering a faint, wary smile. "Easy for you to say," he muttered. You've got your dusty books and ancient ghosts to haunt you. Annika smiled gently, but her eyes held a deep sadness. My family's history is tied to this very darkness. Explorers like us, they vanished chasing legends beneath the earth. It's a legacy I can't run from. The words lingered between them, a fragile bridge connecting two souls shaped by loss and longing. Annika's voice lowered as she reached into her pack and pulled out a cracked, faded tablet inscribed with symbols worn by time. These are their stories, she said softly, tracing a finger over the ancient markings. They remind me why we do this, to find truth, to honor those who came before. Jonas looked at the tablet, the flickering light illuminating the delicate carvings. For a moment, the expedition's perils felt less like isolated threats and more like echoes of those who had braved this darkness long ago. Meanwhile, Evelyn Hart sat nearby, her usual composed demeanor unsettled. The leader had always been the pillar of scientific rigor and calm rationality. But now, as the weight of the journey pressed down, cracks appeared beneath her stoic exterior. Her sharp eyes, normally so perceptive and steady, flickered with a brief hesitation. She pulled her journal close, fingers trembling as she scribbled notes, her mind torn between the pursuit of knowledge and the growing fear for her team's survival. The cavern's silence was oppressive, wrapping around her like a shroud. The discovery of the ancient ruins and cryptic messages had ignited her curiosity. But the dangers lurking in the shadows had ignited a different fire, one of doubt and dread. A sudden noise, the distant rumble of shifting rock, jolted her from her thoughts. She stood quickly, her voice firm but tinged with vulnerability. We can't afford to let fear control us. Our mission depends on every one of us staying strong. Lena Tors, ever the optimist and chronicler of the journey, approached with her camera slung around her neck. We've come too far to turn back now, she said, her smile a soothing balm. And sometimes it's the stories we share that keep us moving forward. That evening, the team gathered around a small campfire etched into a wider cavern chamber. The flickering flames cast long shadows on the rough walls, the warmth a stark contrast to the chilling darkness beyond. One by one, they shared fragments of their past's confessions and memories that had long been buried beneath layers of pride and silence. Jonas told of the mission that had failed him, the faces he couldn't forget, and the guilt that still gnawed at his soul. Annika spoke of her ancestors, explorers swallowed by the earth, their fates intertwined with the river's mysteries. Hart revealed the story of her mentor's disappearance, the spark that had ignited her obsession with the black current. Even Marco Silva and Lena Tors opened up, grounding the expedition in a shared humanity that transcended their individual roles. Through their stories, the team wove a fragile tapestry of trust and empathy, binding them together in the face of the unknown. The cavern's oppressive silence was broken, replaced by a quiet understanding that the greatest dangers might not only lie in the river's depths, but within their own hearts. As the fire flickered low, Hart looked around at her team, flawed, haunted, yet resilient. She knew the journey ahead would test them in ways no map or scientific theory could predict. But in this moment, amid the weight of the past and the flickering glow of shared vulnerability, they found a renewed strength. The black current flowed on, relentless and inscrutable, but the explorers were no longer alone against it. Their pasts, once burdens to bear in solitude, had become the foundation for a collective resolve, a current of hope flowing through the darkness. And as the shadows deepened, and the river whispered its endless secrets, a question lingered. Could they carry the weight of their histories and still find the courage to face the perilous journey ahead? The cavern seemed to hold its breath in answer, waiting for the next step, the next choice, the next story to be told. The night deepened, and the explorers settled into uneasy rest, the echoes of their confessions weaving through their dreams. Outside, the black current moved silently, indifferent to the fears and hopes it carried within its dark embrace. The labyrinth of shadows awaited them like a living entity, its crystalline walls shimmering with an ethereal glow that both mesmerized and unsettled the expedition. Evelyn Hart stood at the threshold, her sharp eyes scanning the translucent tunnel ahead. The light from their headlamps fractured against the angular surfaces, scattering prismatic colors that danced across the rushing water below. The river's flow here was capricious, sometimes a gentle ripple, sometimes a sudden surge carving a path through the glittering maze. Jonas Vega moved forward first, his experience as a cave diver evident in every measured step. The rugged lines of his face tightened with concentration as he gauged the shifting currents, his athletic frame poised to react at a moment's notice. Behind him, Annika Rao adjusted her glasses, her gaze flicking between the inscriptions etched faintly on the walls and the subtle changes in the river's movement. The air was cool and thick with moisture, carrying the distant, rhythmic roar of the subterranean current. "Stay close," Evelyn instructed, her voice steady despite the undercurrent of tension. "The black current here is unpredictable. We need to move carefully." Lena Tor's camera in hand captured the surreal beauty of the moment, the way the crystalline surfaces bent light into kaleidoscopic patterns, the interplay of shadow and shimmer that seemed almost otherworldly. "It's like walking through a cathedral made of water and light," she murmured, or coloring her tone. The team advanced, their movements synchronized in the dim glow. Suddenly, the river's flow shifted violently, a swirling eddy forming around a cluster of sharp, jagged crystals protruding from the water. Jonas signaled a halt, his hands raised. "Strong current ahead," he warned. "We'll have to navigate around it or risk getting caught." Evelyn stepped forward, eyes scanning the formation. "There's a narrow channel to the left," she said, pointing. "But it's tight." "Nina, can you check the stability?" Nina Patel knelt by the water's edge, her fingers tracing the crystalline edges. "They look stable, but if we disturb them too much, we could trigger a collapse," she cautioned. "We need to be precise." The group prepared for the challenge, tension thick in the air. One by one, they edged through the narrow passage, muscles taut as the river threatened to sweep them against the razor-sharp walls. Jonas took the lead, his quick reflexes steering them safely past the hazard. Once clear, Annika's voice broke the silence. "Look at this," she said, gesturing toward a series of delicate inscriptions etched into the crystal nearby. The symbols were intricate, their meaning obscure yet compelling. Evelyn stepped closer, her scientific curiosity ignited. "Ancient warnings," Annika explained softly. "These markings indicate traps and safe passages." They were part of a language long forgotten. The team gathered around as Annika carefully deciphered the symbols, her fingers trembling slightly. "This one here," she said, pointing to a cluster of glyphs near a concealed mechanism, warns of a collapsing tunnel triggered by disturbance. "We must tread lightly." Marco Silva, who had been quietly observing, furrowed his brow. "These ancient defenses, they were designed to keep intruders out. We re not just fighting nature here, we re-up against the legacy of a civilization that revered this river." The realization deepened the weight of their mission. They were not simply explorers, they were intruders in a sacred realm, navigating the delicate balance between discovery and desecration. As they progressed, the river's flow continued to shape their path. Each bend revealed new challenges: unstable rock formations, sudden drops, and hidden whirlpools that tested their resolve. The water's relentless movement was a constant reminder that the black current was not a passive entity, but an active force, indifferent to their presence. During a brief respite, Evelyn gathered the team. "This labyrinth is a crucible," she said, eyes gleaming with determination. "Our survival depends on understanding the river's flow and respecting the warnings left behind. We move forward together, or we don't move at all." The team nodded, their earlier conflicts subdued by the immediacy of their shared peril. Jonas cracked a rare smile. "Lead the way, Doctor. I'm ready." With renewed purpose, they plunged deeper into the labyrinth, the crystalline walls closing around them like the pages of an ancient, untold story. The river's song grew louder, a haunting melody of time and tide, danger and discovery. In the depths, shadows lengthened and twisted, challenging every step. Yet amidst the uncertainty, the explorers found a strange harmony. The flow of the river mirrored the flow within themselves, fear giving way to courage, doubt to resolve, isolation to unity. As they rounded a final bend, a sudden shift in the current propelled them into a wider cavern. Here, the river's waters shimmered with an almost supernatural clarity, reflecting the crystal canopy overhead. The trap that had guarded this sanctuary was disarmed, its mechanism silent. Evelyn exhaled slowly. "We've made it," she said, voice tinged with awe and relief. But this is only the beginning. The labyrinth of shadows had tested them, shaped them, and drawn them irrevocably into the black current's eternal flow. Ahead lay deeper mysteries, greater dangers, and the chance to glimpse the river's ultimate secret. And so, with hearts pounding and spirits steeled, the explorers pressed onward into the unknown, the river carrying them forward, relentless, mysterious, eternal. The cavern's oppressive silence was broken only by the steady drip of water echoing through the vast underground chamber. Here the black current split, diverging in two starkly contrasting veins. One path twisted sharply to the left, its walls jagged and slick, the river rushing with a forbidding roar. The other meandered slowly to the right, shadowed and still, its course uncertain and tangled with unseen obstacles. Drer. Evelyn Hart stood at the crossroads, her keen eyes reflecting the dull glow of headlamps as she surveyed the options. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and mineral-rich water, cold and biting against the skin beneath their protective gear. Around her, the team gathered, their faces pale in the lamplight, expressions taut with the weight of the decision before them. "We must choose carefully," Evelyn began, her voice steady but carrying the gravity of command. "The left path promises speed, but at great peril. Rockfalls are frequent there. The current is strong. One misstep could be fatal." Jonas Vega stepped forward, his rugged frame casting a large shadow on the cavern wall. His dark eyes glimmered with a mix of impatience and resolve. We were running against time, Evelyn. The right path could lead us into dead ends or worse, traps we can't anticipate. I say we take the shortcut. We retrained for this. I've navigated worse." Anika Rao adjusted her glasses nervously, her voice soft but firm. Both choices carry risks, but rushing headlong could jeopardize more than just time. The artifacts and ruins we've found demand caution. We can't afford reckless moves. Marco Silva, standing slightly apart with his ever-present tablet, rubbed his chin thoughtfully. From a logistical standpoint, longer routes mean more supplies, more exposure. But the shortcut could mean losing the team. We need to weigh the costs. Lena Torres, camera slung around her neck, observed silently, her eyes flitting between the faces of her companions. She knew the stakes were far beyond a simple path choice. It was a test of their collective spirit and trust. The debate grew heated. Jonas' voice rose, challenging Evelyn's leadership, accusing her caution of stalling their progress and endangering the mission. Evelyn responded with calm authority, reminding the group of the losses already endured and the unforgiving nature of the black current. Anika appealed to their shared duty to protect the legacy of the ancient civilization they sought to understand. Minutes stretched into an agonizing hour. The cavern walls seemed to close in, the river's whisper turning into a haunting chant that echoed their inner turmoil. Finally, Evelyn took a breath, her decision made. We take the right path, slow and steady. We cannot afford to lose any more of this team. Jonas clenched his jaw but nodded, recognizing the wisdom despite his frustration. The group moved as one, the fragile bonds of trust holding taut but intact. As they progressed, the river's flow seemed to pulse around them, a living entity testing their resolve. The rock beneath their feet was slick, the air thick with anticipation and unseen danger. Every step carried the weight of hope and fear, the team acutely aware that their choices here would shape the fate of their expedition, and perhaps their very lives. Through narrow tunnels and shadowed alcoves, the explorers advanced, their path uncertain, but their determination unwavering. The black current flowed relentlessly beside them, a symbol of time's unending march and the mysteries that awaited. In this crucible of decision and consequence, the explorers learned anew the delicate dance between ambition and caution, between trust and doubt. The river was not merely a passage but a force demanding respect and unity. As the chapter closed, the team's footsteps faded into the darkness, carrying with them the fragile hope that this choice would lead them closer to the elusive heart of the black current and not to their doom. Ahead lies the unknown, Evelyn whispered, eyes fixed on the shadowed path. But together we flow onward. The black current listened, silent and eternal. The narrow passageway opened onto a hidden chamber, its entrance veiled by centuries of sediment and shadow. As the team stepped cautiously inside, a hushed reverence settled over them, the air thick with the weight of forgotten history. Flickering lantern light revealed walls adorned with cryptic carvings, the remnants of a civilization long swallowed by the black current's relentless flow. Anika Rao moved forward with a purposeful grace, her slender fingers brushing away dust from a stone altar that dominated the chamber's center. The altar's surface was etched with intricate symbols, spirals, waves, and figures entwined in what appeared to be a ritualistic dance. The air seemed to hum softly, as if the cavern itself whispered the secrets of its past. These markings, Anika murmured, adjusting her glasses to better focus on the faded inscriptions. They're not merely decorative. They speak of ceremonies, offerings to the river, to the life force that sustained their people. Jonas Vega, ever the pragmatist, frowned as he scanned the chamber's perimeter. Feels like we're trespassing on something sacred. We came for science, but this feels like a warning. Evelyn Hart stepped closer, her sharp eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Warnings or not, these artifacts could redefine our understanding of subterranean cultures. We must document everything meticulously. Lena Torres, camera in hand, moved silently to capture the haunting beauty of the chamber. The click of her shutter punctuated the stillness, each image freezing moments of a civilization lost to time. "These photos will tell their story to the world," she said softly, her voice tinged with awe. Marco Silva consulted his tablet, projecting detailed blueprints of the chamber over the dim light. "The financial backers will want to know the significance of this find," he said, his tone brisk yet respectful. "But we must also consider the costs, not just monetary, but ethical. Disturbing such a site could have unforeseen consequences." Anika nodded, feeling the heavy burden of responsibility settle on her shoulders. The black current was more than a river to these people. It was a living entity, a deity even. Our intrusion risks desecrating their legacy. The team gathered in a tight circle, the cavern's shadows dancing on their faces as they debated their next move. Evelyn advocated for thorough scientific exploration, Jonas pushed for caution, and Anika urged respect for the ancient rites etched into the stone. Lena's quiet observations reminded them that their story was not just about discovery, but about honoring the past. As voices rose and fell, the chamber seemed to listen. Its silence a powerful reminder of the mysteries that lay beneath mysteries that demanded not only curiosity but humility. The explorers realized that their journey was no longer just a physical descent into the earth, but a profound ethical passage into the heart of human heritage. The black current flowed ceaselessly beyond the chamber's walls, its dark waters carrying with them the echoes of a civilization that had revered, feared, and ultimately succumbed to its relentless power. And now the explorers stood at a crossroads, their path shaped as much by moral conviction as by scientific inquiry. As the chapter closed, Anika's fingers lingered on the altar's carvings, her mind alive with questions that transcended the tangible. How far should they push? What price would their discoveries exact? And could they, in their quest for knowledge, remain true to the silent voices that whispered through the stones? The black current was no longer just a river. It was a test of courage, conscience, and the delicate balance between humanity and the unknown. The cavern was eerily silent save for the distant murmur of the black current, its dark waters flowing with an ancient, relentless insistence. Jonas Vega, heart pounding with that familiar mix of adrenaline and recklessness, eyed the narrow ledge ahead, a treacherous shortcut that promised to shave precious hours off their journey, but at a perilous cost. Behind him, the faint voices of the team echoed, cautious and wary, but Jonas had long since stopped listening to hesitations. "I've got this," he muttered under his breath, tightening his grip on the jagged rock face as he stepped forward. The ledge was slick, the cold seep of underground moisture clinging to every surface. His boots found purchase for a moment, then slipped. A sharp crack echoed through the cavern as the fragile stone beneath him fractured, shards tumbling into the abyss. Jonas's arms flailed, eyes wide with shock as he plummeted, crashing into the icy river below with a violent splash that sent ripples of panic through the expedition. "Jonas!" Jarter Evelyn Hart's voice cut through the sudden chaos, sharp and commanding. The group scrambled to the edge, hearts hammering as the cold water swallowed Jonas's silhouette. Without hesitation, Evelyn sprang into action, barking orders to Marco and Nina to ready the ropes and medical supplies. Anika's breath caught as she peered into the dark, churning waters, her mind racing with the symbols and inscriptions they'd uncovered, omens, perhaps, of the dangers lurking beneath. But this was no ancient curse, this was raw, unforgiving reality. Minutes stretched like hours as the rescue unfolded. Lena Torres captured every moment, her camera clicks punctuating the tension. Draw. Felix Harrow prepared the medical gear, his calm professionalism a stark contrast to the turmoil in the cavern. Finally, slick and shivering, Jonas was hauled from the depths, coughing and bruised but alive. "You reckless," Evelyn began, but the words caught in her throat as she took in the raw fear and regret etched across his weathered face. That night, the cavern's shadows seemed heavier, charged with the unspoken fractures within the team. Around a flickering lantern, voices rose and fell in heated debate. Blame mingled with fear, frustration with desperate hope. Jonas sat silent, the weight of his actions pressing down, while Evelyn's gaze hardened with resolve. "This expedition demands discipline," she said firmly. "We cannot afford mistakes born of impulse. Our lives depend on trust and caution." Jonas nodded slowly, the first flicker of humility softening his rugged features. Anika's eyes met his, a silent acknowledgement passing between them, the fragile thread of unity beginning to weave anew. As the night deepened, so did the understanding that the black current was not merely a river to be mapped or conquered. It was a force that tested their limits, their bonds, and their very will to endure. The breaking point had come, but from its fracture, perhaps something stronger could emerge. Yet, as the cavern whispered its ancient secrets and the river's relentless flow persisted, the question lingered: could they carry on, bound together, into the unknown that awaited beyond the next bend? The cavern was awash in a dim, bluish glow cast by the headlamps strapped to each explorer's helmet. Streaks of moisture clung to the jagged rock walls, shimmering faintly as the explorers settled beside the black current's swirling waters. "Dra." Evelyn Hart stood at the riverbank, her gaze steady, capturing the restless flow of the dark water that twisted and churned beneath the uneven ceiling of the subterranean chamber. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of damp earth and mineral-rich water, punctuated by the faint echo of dripping from unseen stalactites above. She drew a slow breath and turned to face the team, who had gathered around the makeshift camp they had established after their recent ordeal. The tension that had gripped them since the cave-in was easing, replaced by a cautious resolve. "We've come too far to falter now," Evelyn began, her voice calm but carrying a firm edge. "The black current tests us. Yes, but it also teaches us. We must adapt, learn, and flow with it rather than fight it." Jonas Vega leaned against a rock nearby, arms crossed but attentive. His usual brash demeanor had softened. The reckless spark in his eyes was tempered by a new, deliberate focus. The near disaster had carved a deep impression into him, an urgent reminder of the fine line between courage and foolhardiness. He nodded slowly, meeting Evelyn's gaze with a silent promise to change. Arnika Ross sat cross-legged, poring over a weathered tablet she had retrieved from a hidden chamber earlier in their journey. Symbols etched into its surface whispered tales of ancient civilizations long swallowed by time and stone. Her fingers traced the intricate patterns as she shared her latest interpretations. "The people who lived here revered the flow," she said softly. "They saw the river as a living entity, not just a source of water, but as a force that shaped their fate. We must honor that perspective as we move forward." Marco Silva, the expedition's financier, tapped on his tablet, reviewing logistics and supplies with a meticulous eye. Though pragmatic and often skeptical, even he found himself caught in the current of the explorers' renewed determination. "We can't afford another setback," he remarked, "but with this new approach, I believe we have a real chance." Lena Torres moved among them, her camera clicking quietly as she documented the human story woven through the natural one. The photographs captured more than faces and gestures. They held the essence of a team reborn through adversity. Their exhaustion was palpable, yet beneath it lay a wellspring of hope and unity. Meanwhile, Dar. Felix Harrow checked medical supplies and tended to minor injuries, his calm presence a steadying balm. He spoke quietly with Jonas about pacing and self-care, emphasizing that survival depended not just on skill but on endurance. Later, Jonas slipped into the water, his wetsuit a dark shadow against the river's shifting surface. This time, he moved with newfound restraint, each stroke measured and purposeful. The underwater passages that had once seemed mere obstacles now revealed themselves as puzzles, their currents and eddies demanding respect. He carefully mapped routes, signaling back to the team with precision rather than haste. The black current surged with a power that was both beautiful and terrifying. It was a living paradox, unyielding yet ever-changing, relentless yet rhythmic. As the explorers pressed deeper, they became part of its flow, learning to anticipate its moods and movements. The river no longer felt a foe to conquer, but a force to embrace. One evening, a low rumble vibrated through the cavern, a reminder of nature's raw, indifferent power. The water swelled, its dark waves licking the rocky banks with increasing urgency. The explorers paused, senses heightened, hearts synchronized with the pulse of the underground river. Evelyn's voice cut through the charged silence. "The black current moves on, indifferent to us. But we move with it now, stronger and wiser." The chapter closed on this moment of solemn resolve. The explorers united against the unknown ahead. Their journey was far from over, but with each step and stroke, they were becoming more than a team. They were a force shaped by the flow itself, ready to face whatever depths awaited. As the current twisted onward, so too did their story, flowing eternally toward revelation and peril. The cavern yawned before them like the maw of some ancient beast. A vast hollow swallowed in an oppressive darkness that seemed to absorb even the faintest glimmers of their headlamps. Dresser, Evelyn Hart stood at the edge of the precipice, her sharp eyes scanning the jagged silhouettes of rock that framed the black waters of the river. The air was thick with a dampness that clung to skin and clothing, carrying the faint, almost imperceptible scent of mineral and decay. A low, haunting echo resonated from the depths below, a sound that was neither wholly natural nor entirely mechanical, but something in between. A pulse that seemed to beat in time with the explorer's quickening heartbeats. Behind her, Jonas Vega tightened his grip on the rope harness, muscles taut beneath his rugged, weather-beaten exterior. His breaths came in controlled bursts, the cold air crystallizing briefly as it escaped his lips. The river here was no mere trickle. It was a black, shifting force that swallowed light and sound, twisting through the cavernous labyrinth like a living entity. Every movement of the water sent ripples through the shadows, reflections dancing eerily on the walls, as if the darkness itself was alive and watching. "Stay close," Evelyn commanded softly, her voice steady despite the charged atmosphere. "We don't know what's waiting downstream." Anika Ra's slender frame followed, her glasses catching the faint gleam of the headlamp as she peered intently at the mineral formations lining the cavern. Her fingers traced the contours of strange crystalline clusters that pulsed faintly with an otherworldly glow, their luminescence casting ghostly reflections that flickered like restless spirits. "These formations," she whispered, "they're unlike anything recorded in the subterranean records. There's something unnatural about their composition." Jonas shot her a glance, his usual dry humor absent in the face of the profound unease settling over the group. "Unnatural or not, we need to keep moving. This place doesn't feel like it wants visitors." The river's roar grew louder, a relentless thrum that filled the cavern with a low, vibrating menace. The explorers exchanged glances, each feeling the weight of the black current's indifferent power pressing against their resolve. Marco Silva adjusted his tablet, the practical businessman's skepticism momentarily overshadowed by the raw, elemental awe of the scene. Lena Torres, ever the chronicler, raised her camera with a steady hand. "This is what adventure looks like," she murmured, snapping a photo of the swirling black waters that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat in the cavern's darkness. Captain Elias Grant took point, his weather-beaten face set in a mask of concentration as he guided the small inflatable boat toward the river's edge. "Hold on tight," he warned, the steady timbre of his voice cutting through the cavern's eerie silence. "The current here is unpredictable." Jonas led the descent into a narrow passage where the water rose quickly, the temperature dropping sharply until their breath became visible, misting in the cold air. The tunnel walls closed in, jagged and slick, shadows flickering with every flicker of their lamps. The sense of menace was palpable, an unseen presence lurking just beyond the reach of light. "Watch your footing," Nina Patel cautioned, her voice calm but edged with urgency. She adjusted the settings on her equipment, ensuring their communication devices and monitoring sensors remained functional despite the hostile environment. Suddenly, a surge rocked the boat, the river's roar swelling into a deafening crescendo. The explorers gripped the sides as the current threatened to sweep them into the abyssal darkness ahead. Evelyn's voice rang out, sharp and commanding, "Brace yourselves!" The boat shuddered violently, tossing them against the cavern walls, water spraying like liquid ice. Jonas scrambled to steady the vessel, muscles straining against the relentless force. In that moment, the true nature of the black current revealed itself, not just a river, but a living, breathing force indifferent to their presence, a test of will and endurance. Gistar Felix Harrow, ever vigilant, scanned the group for injuries, his calm demeanor a steady anchor amidst the chaos. Everyone accounted for. One by one, the team nodded, breaths heavy but spirits unbroken. The passage narrowed again, the water blacker than ever, swallowing their light. Evelyn's mind raced, cataloging the geological features, the mineral signs, the subtle shifts in the current. Each detail was a clue, a fragment of the river's ancient story written in stone and water. "This is the heart of darkness," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "The place where the river's true nature is revealed." Jonas's usual bravado was tempered by a rare solemnity, and where we find out if we were strong enough to survive it. Annika's fingers brushed against the cavern wall, where faint inscriptions hinted at the echoes of lost civilizations. "They faced this too," she murmured, "and left warnings we are only beginning to understand." The river surged again, a reminder that here, in the depths, nature ruled with indifferent cruelty. The explorers pressed onward, each step a defiance against the abyss, each breath a testament to human resilience. As they moved deeper into the cavern, shadows lengthened and the air grew heavier. The black current whispered to them in a language older than time, a relentless flow that carried with it the promise of discovery and the threat of oblivion. Evelyn glanced back at her team, their faces illuminated by the flickering lights, eyes wide with awe and fear. "Stay together. Trust in each other. The river tests us, but it will not break us." The chapter closed on the explorers venturing further into the unknown, caught between wonder and dread. Caught in the heart of darkness, where the black current held its secrets close. The river's eternal flow carried them onward, deeper into a mystery that was as beautiful as it was deadly. A force that would challenge every fiber of their being and redefine what it meant to explore. The subterranean chamber stretched before them like a cavernous cathedral of stone and shadow. Stalactites hung like ancient chandeliers from the vaulted ceiling, dripping rhythmically into shallow pools that mirrored the dim glow of bioluminescent fungi clinging to the walls. The air was thick with dampness, and the faint scent of earth and minerals mingled with something sharper, an almost electric tang that set every nerve on edge. "Dra!" Evelyn Hart moved ahead with deliberate steps, her sharp eyes scanning the intricate glyphs that adorned the walls. These symbols pulsed faintly with an otherworldly light, arranged in patterns that hinted at both artistry and function. "These markings," she murmured, "they were not merely decorative. They form a complex system, perhaps a warning or a mechanism." Jonas Vega followed close behind, muscles taut and senses alert. His rugged frame was poised for action, ready to spring from shadow to shadow. Suddenly, his foot caught on a barely perceptible pressure plate embedded in the stone floor. A sharp click echoed through the chamber. Jonas froze, eyes wide, heart hammering. From the ceiling, slender metal spikes shot down with terrifying speed, stopping mere inches from his face as they retracted with a hiss. "Careful," he barked, stepping back with a dry laugh that belied his shaken nerves. "This place is more than just old walls and water." "Drar." Annika Rao adjusted her glasses, stepping forward to examine a nearby wall panel. Her fingers traced the worn glyphs, lips moving silently as she deciphered the ancient language. "These traps," she said quietly, "were designed not merely to kill, but to protect." This civilization valued the river and the knowledge it carried deeply. They saw outsiders as threats to their sacred trust. Marco Silva, standing a few paces behind, frowned. "So, we're trespassing on a guarded legacy. How do we proceed without becoming victims?" Lena Torres raised her camera, capturing the eerie glow of the glyphs and the tense expressions of the team. "Every step here tells a story," she said softly. "We have to listen carefully." Nina Patel knelt by the pressure plate that had nearly been Jonas's undoing. Pulling out a compact toolkit, she examined the mechanism with a practiced eye. "This is an ancient but sophisticated trap," she explained. "If we can disable or bypass these triggers, we can move safely. But it requires precision." The team huddled briefly, each member sharing insights from their expertise. Evelyn's scientific understanding of geology and hydrology helped interpret the physical structure of the chamber. Annika's linguistic skills revealed the cultural context of the traps, while Jonas's experience navigating dangerous environments kept everyone alert to immediate threats. Nina's engineering skills were crucial in devising ways to neutralize the mechanisms without damaging the site. As they moved cautiously forward, the chamber seemed to watch them. Mechanical clicks and faint whirs echoed. Shadows shifted, and the river's distant murmur underscored the living breath of the ancient site. Several times, the team narrowly avoided falling into hidden pits or triggering dart traps, each close call reinforcing the deadly intelligence embedded within the ruins. One moment stood out starkly. Jonas, scanning ahead, spotted a delicate wire almost invisible against the stone. He whispered a warning just in time, allowing Evelyn to halt the group. Together with Nina, they disarmed the trap, the tension in the air easing slightly but never dissipating entirely. This civilization understood flow, Evelyn said, her voice hushed with admiration. Not just of water, but of life and knowledge. Their traps are a testament to their desire to protect that flow. Annika nodded, eyes reflecting the glyph's glow. We must honor that. Our presence here is a privilege, one that demands respect and caution. Marco, usually pragmatic and skeptical, allowed a rare moment of reverence. Our ambitions carry weight. We must balance discovery with preservation. The chamber's far wall bore a massive door, its surface etched with a sprawling mural depicting the river's journey and the civilization's guardianship. At its center was a complex locking mechanism, combining rotating stones and pressure sensors. Disarming it required every ounce of the team's combined knowledge and skill. Hours passed in painstaking work. Nina's nimble fingers manipulated the mechanical components, while Evelyn and Annika provided guidance from their research. Jonas stood watch, muscles coiled, ready to act at the slightest threat. The others supported with steady hands and keen eyes, the tension building as the final pieces fell into place. With a resonant click, the door slowly grinded open, revealing a chamber bathed in a soft, golden light. The explorers stepped inside with reverent silence, aware that they were crossing a threshold not just into another room, but deeper into the mysteries of the black current. Yet, even as relief washed over them, there was no room for complacency. The ancient guardians, silent and deadly, reminded them that the river's secrets came at a price. Each discovery was earned through respect, caution, and unity. As they pressed forward, the team felt the river's relentless current, not only beneath their feet, but within their very souls, urging them onward into the unknown. "Stay sharp," Evelyn whispered, eyes scanning the dim passage ahead. "The black current never yields its secrets easily." And with that, they stepped into the shadows, ready to face whatever ancient challenge awaited them next. The cavern was alive with a subtle glow, the bioluminescent fungi clinging to jagged walls casting a gentle, ethereal light that danced across the faces of the gathered explorers. For the first time in days, the oppressive tension that had thickened the air seemed to lift, replaced by a fragile but genuine warmth. Around the flickering campfire, voices tentative at first grew steadily more animated. Dra. Evelyn Hart sat cross-legged, her sharp eyes softened by the flickering flames as she listened to Jonas Vega recount a humorous mishap from his military days. Jonas, usually brash and guarded, allowed himself a rare grin, the corners of his weathered features crinkling with amusement. Annika Rao, perched nearby with her ever-present notebook balanced on her knees, laughed softly, the sound delicate yet genuine, bridging the gap between her usual cautious demeanor and the growing camaraderie. "You really had us all worried back then," Lena Torres said, her camera momentarily forgotten as she soaked in the rare moment of levity. Her role as the expedition's documentarian had often made her an observer more than a participant, but here, her eyes shone with a kind of hopeful connection. Marco Silva, ever the pragmatic financier, allowed himself a small smile, the usual furrow in his brow easing. The expedition's risks had been a point of contention, but this moment of shared humanity reminded him why he had invested in such an uncertain venture. Captain Elias Grant leaned against a rock, his weather-beaten face relaxed in the soft light, while Felix Harrow checked over supplies nearby, his calm presence a steadying force. Nina Patel, crouched beside a small toolkit, smiled quietly, thankful for the brief respite from technical challenges. This was more than a campfire gathering. It was a turning point, a quiet forging of bonds that the black current itself seemed to acknowledge with a gentle murmur from the nearby waters. Later, as the team prepared to navigate a particularly perilous stretch of the river, the synergy born of that evening's connection became evident. Jonas and Evelyn approached the swirling underground rapid, a narrow corridor where the river's flow intensified dangerously between jagged rock walls. The passage was unforgiving, demanding precise timing and unwavering trust. On my count, Evelyn instructed, her voice steady, but tinged with the gravity of the moment. Jonas nodded, his usual impulsiveness tempered by the respect he now held for her leadership and judgment. Together, they plunged into the frothing current, bodies moving with practiced coordination. Evelyn's analytical mind calculated the safest path, while Jonas's reflexes and experience ensured swift, decisive action. The rapid was a wild beast, but their combined efforts tamed it, turning a deadly challenge into a testament of their growing unity. Back on the river bank, the rest of the team watched in hushed admiration. Anika's eyes shone with renewed confidence, having just deciphered a complex mural etched in the cavern wall nearby. The ancient figures and symbols told a story of a civilization attuned to the river's moods, a narrative that resonated deeply with the explorer's own journey. "This changes everything," Anika said softly, tracing a delicate finger along the inscriptions. They understood the river as more than water. It was life, danger, and destiny intertwined. The team gathered around her, absorbing the revelation. The shared awe knit them closer, dissolving lingering doubts and disagreements. Night fell again, and Lena captured candid photographs of the team's smiles unguarded, hands reaching out in support, eyes meeting in newfound understanding. Each image was a silent chronicle of healing, a visual testament to bonds forged not just in survival but in shared purpose and respect. The black current roared softly in the distance, an indifferent force that had tested their limits and now, paradoxically, nurtured their unity. In the flow of the river, the explorers saw reflected their own journey, sometimes turbulent, sometimes calm, but always moving forward together. As they settled into rest, the promise of the river's mysteries ahead mingled with the promise of a stronger, more resilient team. The challenges to come would be formidable, but the explorers were no longer solitary figures pushed along by the current. They were a cohesive current themselves, ready to face the abyss with intertwined strength. And somewhere deep within the shadows of the subterranean labyrinth, the black current pulsed on, silent, relentless, eternal, waiting to test the bonds forged in its endless flow. The river's song was growing louder, and with it, the explorers' resolve. Their journey was far from over. Dim light filtered through the narrow crevice that served as the expedition's entrance to the cavern. Swallowed almost entirely by the oppressive shadows of the underground world, Druta Anika Rao crouched before the ancient wall, her breath visible in the cool, damp air as she traced delicate fingers over the faded symbols etched deep into the stone. The inscriptions, worn by centuries yet remarkably preserved beneath layers of mineral deposits, whispered stories long forgotten, a silent language begging to be understood. Around her, the faint sound of water echoed, the black current's relentless flow murmuring through hidden channels, a constant reminder of the river's ceaseless presence. Anika's eyes, magnified slightly by the thin lenses of her glasses, flicked rapidly between the symbols and her field notes. A subtle smile played on her lips as familiar patterns emerged, symbols that bore resemblance to the ancient scripts she had studied in her academic years, yet infused with unique elements, hinting at a culture intimately tied to the subterranean river. She spoke softly, almost reverently. "This is more than just language. It's a record of their existence, their relationship with the river." Dra. Evelyn Hart moved closer, her sharp eyes narrowing as she studied the wall. "What does it say?" she asked, voice low but urgent. Anika turned, her expression alight with a mixture of excitement and solemnity. It tells of a people who revered the black current as a life-giving force, but also a harbinger of destruction. The inscriptions speak of a great shift, a sudden change in the river's course that drowned their cities and forced survivors into the shadows. Jonas Vega stood guard near the cavern's entrance, his rugged frame silhouetted against the faint glow of their lamps. His gaze flicked between the dripping stalactites and the inscriptions, his mind grappling with the implications. So the river itself was their undoing. Annika nodded slowly. Yes, it's as if the river's flow holds memory, recording the rise and fall of civilizations with its shifting path. This isn't just geology. It's history etched in water and stone. Evelyn's thoughts raced. The discovery was monumental, bridging myth and science in a way that defied previous understanding. This changes everything, she said, her voice steady but charged. If the river's shifts destroyed entire cultures before, it could still do so. We need to understand its patterns, predict its movements. The team gathered around a collection of artifacts, ancient pottery shards, carved tablets, and fragments of frescoes, each piece a fragment of the civilization's story. The flickering light from their headlamps cast elongated shadows that danced across the cavern walls, lending an almost spectral quality to the scene. Annika carefully lifted a tablet, brushing away centuries of dust. These markings correspond with the inscriptions, she explained. They reference rituals intended to appease the river, to calm its fury. Jonas allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. If they believed the river was both giver and taker, maybe there's something we're missing, some natural cycle or warning we haven't yet grasped. Suddenly, a low rumble vibrated through the cavern floor, faint at first but growing steadily. Loose stones cascaded from a distant wall, striking the ground with sharp clatters that echoed through the hollow space. The explorers instinctively tightened their formation, eyes darting to the dark recesses around them. Evelyn's voice cut through the tension. The river's power is alive here, unpredictable. We can't underestimate it. The tremor served as a stark reminder of the perilous environment they navigated. But beneath the fear lay an invigorating sense of purpose. The river's memory, etched in stone and water, offered not only a glimpse into a lost world, but a warning that pressed them onward. As Annika resumed her careful study of the inscriptions, Evelyn and Jonas exchanged glances, each silently acknowledging the unspoken truth. Their journey was no longer just an expedition. It had become a vital quest to unravel the mysteries of the Black Current, before the ancient cycle repeated itself against them. The cavern seemed to pulse with the river's rhythm, alive with whispers of the past and the promise of revelation. The explorers, bound by shared discovery and growing respect for the river's inscrutable force, prepared to delve deeper into the labyrinth, propelled by awe, fear, and an unyielding resolve. Outside the cavern, the distant sound of rushing water grew louder, a constant, relentless flow that carried with it the secrets of millennia. The black current moved on, indifferent to the lives entwined with its course, a timeless force shaping worlds both seen and hidden below. Within the heart of the subterranean darkness, the explorers faced their most profound challenge yet, to listen to the river's memory, interpret its message, and survive the unfolding trial it set before them. The line between myth and science blurred, and with it, the fate of those who dared to follow the black current into the unknown. But as Annika's fingers traced the final lines of the inscription, a chilling realization settled among them, all a warning, not just of past destruction, but of dangers yet to come. The river's flow was eternal, but so too was its peril. The edge of the abyss yawned before them like a dark maw, swallowing every scrap of light and sound. Drr. Evelyn Hart's breath caught as she peered into the shadowed depths. The distant roar of the black current cascading unseen below, echoing off the cavern walls with a power that vibrated through the soles of her boots. The river, which had teased them with glimpses and whispers through winding tunnels and crystalline passageways, now plunged into a chasm so vast and profound it seemed to swallow the very earth. Jonas Vegas stood beside her, his rugged face set in a grim line. The flickering beams of their headlamps struggled against the suffocating blackness, illuminating only the immediate rocky ledge beneath their feet. "This is it," he murmured, voice low but steady. "The heart of the abyss." Annika Rao adjusted her glasses, eyes scanning the cavern walls where faint traces of ancient carvings emerged in the lamplight, cryptic symbols and faded figures that spoke of a people who had once braved this darkness long before. The air was thick with dampness and a faint metallic tang, as if the earth herself exhaled the secrets of millennia. The team moved cautiously forward, each step measured against the treacherous footing. The narrow ledges were slick with moisture, and the river's roar shifted in pitch and volume as it plunged deeper below. Lena Torres raised her camera, capturing the interplay of shadow and light, the tension etched on every face. Marco Silva followed closely, his tablet momentarily forgotten as the raw power of the abyss rendered spreadsheets and budgets insignificant. "Stay close," Evelyn commanded, voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Nina, check the ropes. Felix, keep watch for signs of instability." The descent was grueling. Jonas led his experience as a cave diver and survivalist, guiding the team through narrow crevices and slippery stone steps carved by centuries of water flow. Every sense heightened, the explorers felt the weight of the abyss pressing in, not just physically but mentally. The darkness was oppressive, a tangible force that gnawed at their resolve. Annika paused to study a series of carvings etched into a bulging wall. Her fingers traced the worn symbols, translating their meaning silently. "These tell of a great flood," she whispered, "and warnings to those who would challenge the river's depths." Evelyn nodded, absorbing the gravity of the message. "It's a reminder. We were not the first to come here, and we may not be the last." As they pressed onward, a low rumble vibrated through the cavern. Dust fell from overhead ledges, and a sudden tremor shook the stone beneath their feet. Rocks dislodged, crashing down the chasm with thunderous impact. Shouts echoed as the team scrambled for safer ground, hearts pounding in unison. "Hold the line!" Evelyn shouted, steadying herself against the wall. "Check in!" One by one, the explorers confirmed their positions, breaths ragged but steady. The tremor subsided, leaving silence heavier than before. The near disaster served as a stark reminder of the abyss's merciless nature. Jonas wiped sweat from his brow, a rare flicker of vulnerability crossing his usually stoic face. "We have to keep moving, the river's waiting, and so is the truth." Despite exhaustion and fear, the team's determination coalesced into a shared resolve. The abyss was not just a physical barrier, but a crucible revealing their deepest strengths and weaknesses. Trust formed in whispered reassurances and steady hands, binding them together against the darkness. Night stretched on inside the Earth's heart, timeless and indifferent. Yet within that eternal shadow, the explorers carried a flicker of hope, a light fueled by wonder, courage, and the relentless flow of the black current itself. As they advanced deeper into the abyss, every step was a testament to human resilience and the unyielding quest for discovery. "We were close," Evelyn said finally, voice barely audible over the distant roar. "Close to where the river resurfaces, and to answers we've sought since the beginning." But the abyss held its secrets tightly, and the final trials awaited, ready to test the explorers beyond anything they had faced so far. Their journey into the unknown had reached its darkest hour, and the path forward demanded everything they had and more. The black current surged onward, relentless and eternal, carrying them toward a destiny forged in the depths of the Earth's hidden veins. And as the explorers braced themselves for what lay ahead, the abyss whispered its ancient challenge. Only those who could flow with its current would survive to see the light again. The descent was far from over, and the true peril was yet to come. The cavern opened before them like a maw in the earth, vast and unyielding. The black current thundered through the darkness, cascading down an immense underground waterfall that seemed to devour all light and sound beyond its furious roar. "Draw!" Evelyn Hart stepped forward, her sharp eyes scanning the scene, a chaotic dance of water, rock, and shadow that marked the final natural obstacle before the river's mysterious resurgence. "This is it," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the crashing torrent. The last barrier. Behind her, the rest of the team gathered, faces drawn tight with a mixture of exhaustion and resolve. Jonas Vega, standing at the edge, flexed his fingers, the scars and calluses on them telling stories of countless dives and scrambles through unforgiving terrain. His gaze was steady despite the obvious danger. Beside him, Anika Rao adjusted her glasses, her usually cautious demeanor replaced by a quiet determination. Marco Silva checked his tablet one last time, though here, technology seemed powerless against the raw forces of nature. Lena Torres had her camera poised, capturing the overwhelming scale and emotion of the moment, the interplay of human fragility and indomitable spirit amidst the cavern's brutal beauty. Captain Elias Grant and Felix Harrow exchanged brief nods, each silently acknowledging the risks ahead. "We'll need to be methodical," Evelyn said, pulling out maps and notes illuminated by the beam of her headlamp. "The rock formations here are unstable. The water's force could shift them at any moment." Naina Patel, already kneeling to inspect their climbing gear, spoke up. "Ropes and anchors will have to be perfect. One slip and we re in the torrent." Jonas stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "I'll go first. Test the footing, find the safest path." Evelyn nodded, feeling the weight of leadership more keenly than ever. "Take your time. The rest of us will set up backup lines." The team dispersed, each member moving with practiced efficiency despite the oppressive atmosphere. The roar of the waterfall was a constant reminder of the stakes, an unrelenting force that challenged their every step. Jonas's boots splashed against slippery stones, water spraying in fine mist that caught the beams of light in glittering arcs. "Careful," Evelyn called, watching his approach with bated breath. Jonas tested each foothold, shifting his weight with acute precision. His face was a mask of concentration, muscles taut beneath his weathered clothing. Moments stretched into minutes as he inched forward, the cavern's chill air filled with the scent of damp stone and rushing water. Suddenly, a small rock shifted beneath his foot, sending a spray of water into the air and eliciting a gasp from the onlookers. Quick reflexes saved him from a fall, but the tremors rippled through the ledge. "It's unstable," he shouted back, voice strained. "We have to anchor everything securely." Back on solid ground, Evelyn took charge, directing the team to set up an intricate system of ropes and carabiners. Nina's technical expertise ensured the gear was fortified against both the waterfall's mist and the treacherous footing. Felix stood ready with medical supplies, his calm presence a balm to the rising tension. Lena moved amongst them, her camera catching the interplay of light and shadow, the grit and determination etched on every face. "This is it," she whispered to herself, the moment where everything could change. Hours passed in a blur of meticulous preparation and slow progress. The team climbed, belayed, and secured each other with a rhythm born of deep trust and necessity. As the roar of the waterfall loomed ever closer, the physical exertion took its toll. Muscles burned, breaths came in ragged gasps, and the mind wavered between hope and fear. At one point, Jonas slipped again, this time saved only by an anchor and the quick grip of Evelyn's hand. For a fleeting second, time seemed to freeze, the cavern holding its breath with them. Then, the climb resumed, steadier now, each member buoyed by shared resolve. Near the top, the river's fury began to mellow. The deafening roar softened to a steady rush, and a faint glow shimmered on the horizon, the promise of the surface, the unknown world beyond. On a narrow ledge, the team paused, bodies slick with sweat and dampness, faces illuminated by the pale light filtering through fissures above. Evelyn looked at each of them, pride and exhaustion mingling in her gaze. "We're almost there," she said softly. "The river's path isn't just a physical journey, it's a test of everything we are." Jonas cracked a tired smile, the first in hours. "And we were still standing." Anika stepped forward, her voice steady despite the wariness. Whatever awaits us beyond this ledge, we face it together. The team exchanged nods, a silent pact forged in the crucible of peril and perseverance. Lena captured the moment, not just the scene, but the spirit that had carried them through darkness and doubt. As they prepared to move onward, a subtle tremor rippled through the cavern. The black current flowed relentlessly beneath their feet, a reminder that the journey was far from over. But for now, standing on the cusp of emergence, hope surged, fragile, fierce, eternal. "Ready?" Evelyn asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Ready," came the unified response. With one last breath, they stepped forward into the light, into the unknown, carried by the eternal flow of the black current. The final barrier had been overcome, but the river's mysteries still beckoned. What secrets lay beyond the surface? What new challenges awaited the explorers who dared to follow the relentless flow? As the cavern faded behind them, the answer remained suspended in the shimmering mist, a question as deep and enduring as the black current itself. The air grew warmer, carrying with it a salty tang that teased the senses of the wary explorers as they scrambled over the uneven rocks. For hours, they had clawed their way through the final narrow passage, muscles aching, lungs burning from the damp, stale air of the cavern. Now, as the last barrier, a jagged, collapsed wall of stone, gave way under their combined effort, the promise of something greater beckoned beyond. Dre? Evelyn Hart was the first to emerge fully into the blinding light. Shielding her eyes with a trembling hand, she blinked against the sudden exposure to the sun's warmth. Before her stretched an endless expanse of shimmering blue, the ocean, vast and alive with the ceaseless dance of waves. The black current, the legendary river that had carried them through darkness and danger, flowed freely here once again, pouring its subterranean waters into the sea. Behind her, Jonas Vega hauled himself out, his rugged face streaked with grime and sweat, but alight with a rare smile. "We made it," he gasped, voice hoarse but triumphant. The black current. It's real. Anika Rao adjusted her glasses, her eyes wide not just with relief but with reverence. "Look at the shoreline," she murmured, tracing the contours of rock sculpted by centuries of water's persistent flow. It's as if the river has carved a secret passage to the world beyond. Marco Silva, ever the pragmatist, immediately began scanning the horizon, already calculating the implications for future expeditions and funding. Lena Torres, camera poised, captured the moment, each shutter click a testament to their passage from myth to reality. The team gathered on the rocky shore, bodies aching and spirits frayed by the trials of their subterranean odyssey. Some sat silently, the weight of loss heavy in their expressions as they remembered those who had not survived. Others embraced a fragile web of connection formed by shared danger and discovery. Felix Harrow moved among them, tending to minor injuries, his steady presence a balm to nerves still taut from the final descent. Nina Patel meticulously checked their equipment, ensuring everything had endured the punishing journey. Evelyn knelt beside the river's mouth, dipping a vial into the mingling waters. She recorded notes feverishly, her scientific mind alight despite exhaustion. This changes everything," she whispered to herself. "The flow, the source, the journey, it's all here." The sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. The ocean's gentle roar mingled with a breeze that carried the scent of salt and freedom. It was a moment suspended between worlds, between the claustrophobic shadows of the underground and the boundless horizon ahead. Jonas stood nearby, gazing out over the water. "We've been swallowed by darkness and spit out into light," he said softly, more to himself than anyone else. "What now?" Anika joined him, her voice steady despite the tremor of emotion beneath. "Now we tell the story. We honor the river and those who came before us." Lena lowered her camera, eyes shining. "The world needs to see this. Not just the science, but the human journey, the fear, the hope, the discovery." Evelyn rose, the leader once more despite the fatigue that clung to her like a second skin. "This is only the beginning," she declared, voice firm. the black current calls us onward. There are still mysteries to unravel, lessons to learn. As twilight deepened, the survivors stood together on the edge of the unknown, forever changed by the river's relentless flow. The black current continued its eternal journey beneath the earth, a timeless force weaving nature's story and humanity's quest for knowledge into the fabric of the world. And somewhere beyond the horizon, new adventures awaited. The morning light filtered gently through the swaying fronds of the coastal palms, casting a mosaic of dancing shadows across the weathered faces of the survivors. The black current, that ancient and inscrutable force they had chased through labyrinthine caves and perilous waters, now flowed quietly into the boundless ocean before them. The rhythmic lap of waves against the shore was a gentle contrast to the relentless roar of the subterranean river they had left behind. But the weight of their journey still clung to each of them like a second skin. Evelyn Hart sat perched on a sun-warmed rock, her practical boots resting on sand that had been smoothed by the tide's steady embrace. Her sharp eyes, usually so focused on geological formations and hydrological data, now seemed distant, reflecting the endless horizon where sky met sea. The air was salty and fresh, carrying the scent of seaweed and distant rain, but inside her, a tempest of thoughts churned. She pulled her worn book from her pack, though for a long moment she merely traced the leather cover with her fingers. The expedition had tested everything she was, her scientific theories, her leadership, and her very sense of self. The black current was not merely a river to be mapped. It was a force that had challenged their hubris, forcing humility in the face of nature's vast mysteries. Her voice broke the silence as she spoke aloud, almost to herself. Discovery demands courage, but humility must temper ambition. To push too hard risks losing what we cherish most, our humanity. Nearby, Jonas Vega sat by a flickering campfire, methodically cleaning his diving gear. The glow of the flames flickered across his rugged features, revealing the faint lines etched by years of hardship and regret. He glanced up as Anika Rao approached, her steps light but assured, carrying a bundle of recovered artifacts carefully wrapped in cloth. "You never talk much about what you left behind," Anika said softly, settling beside him. Jonas exhaled slowly, the firelight catching the shadow of a distant memory. "There were lives lost," he admitted, voice low. "I carry that with me. But out here, with the black current's relentless flow, I've realized I can't be trapped by the past. I have to move forward, learn from it." Anika nodded, her glasses catching the firelight as she pulled a small notebook from her satchel. "We all have our ghosts. But this journey, it's changed me. I see now that preserving these lost cultures isn't just academic, it's a responsibility." She gestured toward the artifacts' intricate carvings and symbols that hinted at stories long silenced by time. They deserve respect, and their stories must be told carefully. As dawn painted the sky in hues of gold and pink, Lena Torres moved quietly among the group, her camera clicking softly. She captured moments of vulnerability and strength, Hart's introspective gaze, Jonas's tentative smile, Anika's focused determination. From a short distance, Marco Silva conferred with Hart, their conversation a blend of strategic planning and cautious pragmatism. "Funding won't flow endlessly," Marco cautioned, his tone measured. "We need to justify risks and ensure tangible outcomes." Hart met his gaze steadily. "Science isn't always about immediate returns. Sometimes it's about the questions that only time can answer. The black current is one of those questions." Despite the tension threading through the discussion, there was an unmistakable undercurrent of shared purpose, a testament to the bonds forged by the river's relentless journey. As the day wore on, each member of the team wrestled with their own reflections. The black current had changed them physically, emotionally, and intellectually. It had revealed the precarious balance between human ambition and nature's immutable forces. It had tested their courage and resilience, demanding sacrifices that would echo throughout their lives. Hart closed her notebook, the pages filled with observations, sketches, and fleeting thoughts. She rose, feeling the steady pulse of the ocean beneath her feet, and whispered, "The flow never ends. Neither does our quest to understand." With a final glance at the shimmering water, the explorers prepared to leave the shore, each carrying the indelible imprint of the black current, a timeless force of discovery and peril that would forever shape their destinies. Yet as they stepped forward, the horizon remained infinite, beckoning them onward. The river's silent call stirred within them still, a promise that the flow of knowledge and adventure was eternal, just like the black current itself. The return of the team from the depths of the black current was met with a whirlwind of attention that rippled far beyond the scientific community. As news outlets clamored for exclusive interviews and the public hung on every detail, the expedition's revelations sparked a fresh wave of debate and dialogue across the world. At the forefront of this media storm stood Marco Silva, the pragmatic financier whose investments had made the journey possible. In a brightly lit conference room filled with eager reporters, Silva adjusted his tea and tapped on his tablet to bring up graphs and images from the expedition. His voice was steady, projecting confidence as he balanced the excitement of the discoveries with the sobering realities of funding future explorations. "What we have witnessed is nothing short of extraordinary," Silva began. "But with such groundbreaking findings come responsibilities, not only to science, but to the cultures whose histories we have touched. We must ensure that our enthusiasm does not outpace our stewardship." The room hummed with murmurs, reflecting a collective awareness that the expedition's impact extended well beyond adventure and science. Silva's words struck a chord, underscoring the precarious balance between exploration and preservation. Outside the conference halls, Lena Torres moved deftly through crowds, her camera capturing moments that told stories beyond words. Her photographs framed the team in candid intimacy, Evelyn's intense focus as she examined notes, Jonas's rugged determination as he carried gear, and Anika's gentle curiosity as she traced ancient inscriptions. In her interviews, Lena illuminated the human heart of the expedition, the sacrifices, fears, and hopes that had propelled the explorers through the black current's merciless depths. "It's not just about the river," Lena told a captivated audience. "It's about the people who dared to follow it, and the civilizations whose echoes still linger beneath the earth." Meanwhile, Evelyn Hart found herself at the center of a storm within the scientific and cultural communities. Panels convened to debate the ethical implications of the discoveries, the potential risks of exposure, and the need for respectful preservation. Facing a room of skeptical scholars and cultural representatives, Evelyn articulated a vision that married rigorous science with profound respect. "Our findings open a window to a lost world," she asserted, "but it is our duty to approach this window with humility and care. We must listen to the voices of heritage and history, ensuring that our pursuit of knowledge honors the cultures we uncover." Her words earned nods but also cautious questions, reflecting the complex web of interests and values entwined with the expedition's legacy. In quieter moments away from the public eye, Jonas Vega and Annika Rao shared conversations that revealed the personal transformations wrought by their journey. Over steaming cups of coffee in a bustling cafe, they reflected on the burdens and blessings of discovery. "I used to think this was about redemption," Jonas confessed, tracing patterns on the table. "But it's more than that, it's about responsibility." Annika nodded thoughtfully, "And about preserving the stories that these stones and rivers hold. We carry more than just our own ambitions now." Their dialogue captured a poignant truth, that exploration was never merely a physical passage, but a moral and emotional odyssey, challenging each of them to grow in unexpected ways. As the days unfolded, the echoes of the black current's revelations continued to reverberate, shaping conversations in academic halls, government offices, and homes around the world. The expedition had ignited a flame not only of curiosity, but of conscience, forcing humanity to confront the delicate interplay between knowledge and respect, ambition and humility. The path forward was uncertain, yet full of promise. The black current, with its dark waters and hidden depths, remained a symbol of nature's enduring mystery and the indomitable spirit of those who dared to follow its flow. And as the team prepared for new chapters in their lives and work, the call of the unknown whispered once more, inviting them and all who listened to journey beyond the horizon of what was known. But beneath the surface of public acclaim and scientific acclaim, questions lingered. How far could humanity tread without disturbing the fragile balance of the past? And what sacrifices would be demanded by the relentless pursuit of the future? These were the echoes beyond echoes that would shape not only the legacy of the Black Current expedition, but the very way we understood our place in the vast, flowing tapestry of time and discovery. The cave was unusually silent as drear. Evelyn Hart crouched beside an exposed rock face, a beam of her headlamp illuminating the intricate web of mineral veins that traced the surface like a cryptic map. Around her, the team gathered, their breaths shallow in the damp air, eyes fixed on the patterns that spoke of Un's past. These formations, Evelyn began, her voice steady but filled with reverence, are the fingerprints of tectonic forces that have shaped this river's course over millions of years. The Black Current isn't just a river. It's a living archive of the Earth's restless heart. Jonas Vega leaned in, his usual brash demeanor softened by genuine curiosity. So what you re-saying is, this river's path has shifted because the ground beneath us has been moving all this time. Exactly, Evelyn replied, standing and brushing dust from her sleeves. The subterranean channels have been carved and recarved by tectonic uplift, seismic activity, and the persistent flow of water that adapts, erodes, and reshapes its bed. This flow we chase is part of a much larger geological dance. Anika Rao adjusted her glasses, her eyes alight with the thrill of new understanding. It puts the ancient civilizations we've uncovered into perspective, she said softly. They weren't just passive witnesses to this river, but participants in a landscape that was continually evolving beneath their feet. Lena Torres clicked her camera quietly, capturing the moment, the convergence of human insight and natural wonder. This is the kind of story that changes everything, she murmured. In the background, Marco Silva stood apart, scrolling through the expedition's latest data on his tablet. His pragmatic mind balanced the awe with caution. These findings are impressive, he said finally, but they remind us that the river's unpredictability isn't just a scientific curiosity, it's a real danger. If the Earth's plates shift again, it could change everything for the team and for future expeditions. Evelyn nodded thoughtfully. That's why understanding the geology isn't just academic. It's essential for our safety and for planning any long-term study or conservation efforts. But it also humbles us. The Black Current is a force far beyond our control or full comprehension. The conversation drifted into silence as the team absorbed the weight of her words. The cave's walls seemed to close in, the shadows deepening, yet the river's distant murmur persisted, a reminder of the eternal flow that had carried them through danger and discovery alike. Jonas broke the silence, his voice low but resolute. If the river's going to keep changing, so will we. We have to be ready for what comes next. Anika smiled faintly. And we have to make sure that what we do here honors the legacy of those who lived and vanished along these banks before us. Evelyn looked around at the team, their faces illuminated by the flickering light, each reflecting a blend of exhaustion, determination, and awe. The Black Current teaches us that knowledge isn't static. It flows, it evolves. Just like this river, our place in this world is not to conquer it, but to learn its language and respect its power. Outside the cavern, the fading light of day filtered through the distant entrance, casting a faint glow that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of the unseen river below. The explorers sat in quiet contemplation, bound together by the shared realization that they were part of a story much larger than themselves, a story written in stone, water, and time. As night deepened, Evelyn's mind raced with possibilities and questions. How many more secrets did the black current hold? How far did its course truly extend beneath the earth? And what price would they pay for chasing the flow into the unknown? Her resolve hardened. This was not the end of their journey, but a pivotal chapter in an endless quest. The river's unseen current had carried them here, and it would carry them further still. The soft rush of water echoed through the cavern, a whisper of eternity challenging their human ambitions, inviting them onward into the depths where discovery and peril intertwined eternally. The sun filtered through the tall windows of the modest research outpost, casting long, golden beams across the scattered maps and notes that covered the wooden table. Draw. Evelyn Hart stood over the spread, her gaze sharp and focused, despite the wariness that clung to her frame. The black current had revealed much, but it had also left countless questions, lingering enigmatic twists in its course, geological formations defying existing theories, and a natural force that seemed to pulse with a life of its own beneath the earth. Evelyn's fingers traced the lines of the subterranean river's path, connecting the dots between their findings and the broader scientific landscape. She spoke softly to herself, outlining plans for future expeditions, advanced hydrological studies, and collaborations that might finally unravel the mysteries that had consumed her attention for years. Her voice carried a renewed determination, tempered by the lessons learned in darkness and danger. Nearby, Annika Rao sat cross-legged on the floor, a fragile relic cupped gently in her hands. The artifact, a carved stone tablet etched with symbols older than any known civilization, seemed to pulse with a silent history. Annika's amber eyes shone beneath the lenses of her glasses as she studied the carvings, her fingers moving lightly over the grooves, as if communing with the long-lost voices they represented. She spoke quietly to the group gathered around, her tone reverent but firm. "We cannot simply take these treasures from their resting place," she said. "They belong to a culture that endured in the shadows, and it is our duty to preserve their legacy, not exploit it. We must work with local authorities and scholars to ensure these sites are protected." Her words kindled a shared sense of responsibility among the team. Jonas Vega, standing apart near the riverbank where the black current met the open ocean, was silhouetted by the descending sun. The sky blazed with hues of orange and purple, the water reflecting the fiery display as it flowed ceaselessly onward. The rugged lines of Jonas's face softened as the weight of the expedition's trials lifted. He exhaled deeply, the crisp air filling his lungs, and his voice broke the contemplative silence. "For so long, I was just trying to outrun my past," he admitted, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Now I see that there's more to this journey than survival. There's purpose, maybe even redemption." His companions watched quietly, sensing the shift within him, a man once driven by recklessness, now tempered by reflection and hope. Inside a bustling conference room back at the expedition's home base, Marco Silva and Lena Torres engaged in a spirited discussion. Marco, ever pragmatic in his tailored suit and polished demeanor, argued the importance of measured disclosure to secure funding and manage public expectations. Lena, camera slung over her shoulder, pushed back with passion for honest storytelling, eager to share the profound human and natural drama they had witnessed. Their exchange crackled with tension and energy, highlighting the delicate balance between truth and sensationalism, between inspiring wonder and safeguarding the fragile truths uncovered. As evening settled, the team gathered once more by the river's edge, the black current flowing eternal and enigmatic before them. They spoke quietly of legacies of knowledge gained, friendships forged, and the costs paid in pursuit of discovery. Each carried the imprint of the journey, transformed in ways that would ripple forward into their futures. Evelyn's plans for the next expedition were ambitious but grounded in humility. Annika's commitment to cultural preservation was unwavering. Jonas's newfound purpose promised steadiness, and the public's growing fascination with the black current promised challenges and opportunities alike. The river's flow was relentless, a reminder of nature's enduring power and the unending quest for understanding that defined human spirit. As the night deepened, the explorers looked to the stars reflected in the dark waters, feeling the pull of the unknown yet to come. They had uncovered a legacy not just of ancient civilizations and hidden rivers, but of resilience, respect, and the eternal flow of discovery that binds past, present, and future. And beneath the earth, the black current continued its secret journey, timeless, mysterious, and forever beckoning those brave enough to follow its course. The night had fallen softly over the rugged landscape surrounding the cave's mouth, the stars emerging one by one in a deep indigo sky. A crackling fire sat at the heart of the small camp, its warm glow casting long, flickering shadows on the faces of the exhausted explorers gathered around it. Evelyn Hart sat close to the flames, her sharp eyes reflecting the dancing light as she traced the lines of the blackened stones underfoot. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, the faint murmur of the distant river weaving through the stillness like a whispered promise. Jonas Vega leaned back against a sturdy boulder, the rugged contours of his weathered face softening in the firelight. His breath came steady, but beneath the surface lay a restless energy that no amount of fatigue could tame. Beside him, Annika Rao adjusted her glasses, her slender fingers idly tracing the notebook resting on her lap. Though her traditional attire seemed out of place in the wild, her eyes shone with a mix of wonder and cautious optimism. "It's hard to believe it's really over," Evelyn began, her voice low but steady. "After everything we faced, the black current still calls us." Jonas cracked a dry smile, the humor in his voice tempered by something deeper. "You think the river's done with us? I don't. It's like it's alive, pulling us back, daring us to go further." Annika nodded thoughtfully. "There's so much we still don't understand. The ancient inscriptions, the hidden chambers, they hint at secrets beyond our current reach. The river isn't just a force of nature. It's a corridor through time itself." Their conversation was interrupted by the approach of Marco Silva and Lena Torres, who had been engaged in a heated discussion near the cluster of equipment and maps. Marco's pragmatic gaze was fixed on a tablet glowing softly in the firelight, while Lena's camera hung loosely around her neck, her eyes bright with conviction. "We can't afford another expedition like this," Marco argued, his voice carrying the weight of responsibility and finance. "The risks are enormous. We need guarantees, safety protocols that we just don't have yet." Lena shook her head, her tone passionate but measured. "And what about the stories we're missing if we don't push forward? The world deserves to know what lies beyond. The discoveries could change everything." Evelyn rose, her practical attire rustling as she stepped between the two, her expression calm yet unwavering. "Marco, Lena, both of you have valid points. But the black current has changed us all. We can't simply walk away now. We need to balance caution with courage. That's the only way we'll uncover the truths hidden beneath the surface." The storm came suddenly, raindrops pattering on leaves and gear, a rhythmic percussion that filled the night. The team quickly gathered under tarps and makeshift shelters, the shared shelter forging a quiet solidarity among them. The relentless rain echoed, the unstoppable flow of the black current itself a reminder of nature's indifference, and the explorer's fragile place within it. Evelyn stood at the edge of the camp, her gaze drawn once again to the dark mouth of the cave. The river's faint murmur reached her ears, a siren's call that stirred something deep within her, a restless yearning, a call to continue. Jonas joined her, tightening his grip on his gear, eyes blazing with renewed determination. "You ready for whatever comes next?" he asked, voice low but charged. She met his gaze, a slow nod affirming the unspoken resolve between them. "We have to be. The black current isn't done with us yet." As the rain intensified, the team huddled together, sharing stories, hopes, and fears beneath the sheltering tarps. Their journey had tested their limits, reshaped their bonds, and revealed the perilous beauty of discovery. Yet despite the cost, the call of the unknown remained irresistible, a timeless current flowing through their hearts, urging them forward into the mysteries that still awaited. In the quiet moments before sleep, Evelyn's mind wandered to the future, new maps to draw, ancient languages to decipher, and the endless courses the black current might take beneath the earth. The river was more than a natural wonder. It was a force that challenged human ambition, a reminder that discovery was a never-ending journey shaped by flow, danger, and hope. The next chapter of their lives was unwritten, but one thing was certain: the explorers would answer the call of the unknown, wherever it might lead. Outside the warm cocoon of the camp, the storm raged with unyielding intensity. Thunder rolled across the sky like the roar of a beast, and lightning split the horizon, illuminating the dense forest in stark, fleeting relief. The black current, hidden beneath the earth, seemed to echo the tempest's fury, its subterranean waters racing through unseen caverns with a relentless, primal force. Inside the camp, the explorers found renewed strength in their shared purpose. The perilous journey had forged a bond that no storm could dissolve. Each of them understood that the river was not merely a challenge to be conquered, but a powerful symbol of nature's eternal flow and of humanity's enduring quest to navigate the unknown. As the rain softened to a gentle drizzle, Evelyn closed her notebook and looked around at her team. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we begin planning the next expedition. The black current still holds its secrets, and we will uncover them." Jonas smiled, his eyes reflecting the firelight once more. "Then let's make sure we're ready for whatever the river throws at us." Annika adjusted her glasses and nodded. "For the history, for the future." Marco exhaled slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing. "For science." Lena raised her camera in a quiet salute. "For the stories yet to be told." Together, beneath the shelter of the night and the endless flow of the black current, they began to dream again of discoveries waiting just beyond the horizon, of the call of the unknown that would never cease to beckon. The call of the black current was eternal, and so was their journey. Evelyn Hart stood at the edge of the cliff, the cool ocean breeze tugging at her jacket as the last rays of the sun dipped below the horizon. Before her, the black current, the river that had consumed their lives for so long, flowed freely into the vastness of the sea. The water shimmered in the fading light, dark and mysterious, as if guarding secrets yet to be revealed. For a moment, she allowed herself to simply breathe, to absorb the enormity of what they had accomplished and the enormity of what remained unknown. Behind her, the rest of the team gathered quietly, each lost in their own thoughts. Jonas Vega, weathered but steady, leaned against a weather-beaten rock, his eyes fixed on the turbulent waves below. Beside him, Annika Rao adjusted her glasses, tracing patterns in the sand as if seeking to decode the river's final message. The air was thick with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration, the kind that only comes after surviving the impossible. "We made it," Jonas said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was rough but sincere, carrying a weight that mirrored the journey's toll. "The black current isn't just a river, it's a force." Evelyn nodded, her gaze never wavering from the water. "A force older than us all, flowing beneath the earth, shaping worlds we can barely comprehend." Annika stepped forward, her voice soft but resolute. "And yet it's also a story, one that connects the past to the present. The civilizations we uncovered, the lives lost and preserved in stone, all speak to our place within that flow." The group's reflections were interrupted by the distant sound of footsteps. Marco Silva approached, his usually pragmatic demeanor softened by a rare smile. "The world is eager to hear our story," he said, holding up a tablet filled with images and data from the expedition. "And they'll want to know what this means, not just scientifically, but for humanity." Lena Torres, camera slung over her shoulder, caught his words with a nod. There's a hunger for wonder, for discovery. Our photos, our reports, they'll bring the black current alive for people who couldn't imagine such a place exists. Evelyn looked at her team, her family forged in darkness and danger, and felt a surge of pride tempered by the knowledge of what had been sacrificed. "This is just the beginning," she said. "The black current flows eternal, and so must our quest to understand it." As night fell, the team gathered around a crackling campfire, sharing stories and hopes under a canopy of stars. Jonas and Annika spoke quietly, their earlier tensions softened into mutual respect. "I never thought I'd find peace in a place like this," Jonas admitted. Annika smiled gently. "The river teaches us not just about the earth, but about ourselves." Meanwhile, Evelyn penned the final notes of their report, her hand steady despite the fatigue. Every detail mattered: the flow of water, the ancient symbols, the perilous passages. It was a testament to human resilience and the unyielding march of nature. In the weeks that followed, their discoveries sparked debates in scientific halls and public forums. Questions about preservation, exploitation, and the ethics of exploration swirled around their findings. Yet, for Evelyn and her team, the answers lay not just in facts, but in the enduring mystery of the black current. One evening, as the sun set once more, Lena captured a final photograph, a silhouette of the team walking away from the ocean, small figures against the endless horizon. It was a symbol of the journey's end and the promise of new beginnings. The black current continued its silent, relentless flow beneath the earth, a timeless force shaping the world in ways unseen. And humanity, ever curious, would follow its call into darkness, into discovery, into the eternal flow of life itself. The end was but a beginning, the flow eternal.